And a happy Tuesday morning to you. Welcome to the EST Hangout, which is presented by Mott's Clamato Caesar, the top Caesar brand in the country. Cheers to the Hangout. Cheers to Mott's Clamato Caesar. Lieutenant Eric about to get into the original.
Is that carbonated?
Caesar.
Well, that's...
I don't think so.
No. It should,
No.
But what's the shaking? It is like 30
just
seconds.
gentle shake.
Like gentle
I don't
shake.
know.
Like,
Is
it's
there
just
like
kind
a-
of loosen
it
it up.
mixes
Supposed
it
to
all
shake
up,
it
right?
around.
Yeah.
On the Hangout today, Dean Millard from For Vengeance Media with us, and then Lieutenant Eric for an hour, and then YouTube Trev will pop by. Mott's Clamato Caesar shaking. Let's see how long you have to shake
I
it
could
for.
either go for the original today, Dino, or the extra spicy.
Ooh.
And I figured at this hour I might have...
Are you a spicy guy?
I love the spice. But as one ages, one has to be more in tune with the...
Yes.
The
gastro.
Yeah, I'm gesturing around my stomach, and that's kind of a thing. So
You're pregnant. Congratulations.
Well, I didn't want to get out of the bag. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Probably shouldn't be drinking that
But
Mott's
it-
Clamato,
Look,
but-
it's the original. It's not spicy, so it'll be okay. I mean, a
You
little
shake
bit,
it for 5 seconds.
5
On
seconds.
their
did way more
website
than
for
that.
one of them.
Wow. So you're getting
It was
extra.
saying 5 seconds.
You know, it's funny.
That's when you're making a Caesar. Never mind. I don't know about the actual. I would think it's probably about the same from
Scott,
there.
you're
I did
mixing
about
it up,
20
yeah.
seconds there, and it tastes great. Like
There was
it's a nice mix.
When I used to imbibe with wine, there was this bottle of wine called, it was Molly Duker. And I lost a bet to Ed Hervey on an NBA game, and lost the way I had to take him for
Go
dinner
Lakers.
at Ruth Chris. And Ed was just like ordering everything, and then they come by with the wine list, and he picks this bottle, which was fairly expensive, but you had to like do a big shake up and all this stuff.
Presentation.
Yeah, like I'd never seen that before, and I'm like, wow. Ed picked like the most dramatic bottle as well.
Yeah.
So
I never
the only-
heard-
the one
shaking
thing,
a wine or
yeah,
something.
you
That's
you
interesting.
shake it up, and then
I've
you
never
have
heard
to.
of
There's a process that you do with it. So yeah, the one thing I do like about Ed, other than his great personality, is he is a Dodgers fan as well. So.
Oh.
We have to
did
get
I-
there, actually.
Did I
The
mention
cap.
that?
Yes.
780-218-9999, Paris Jewelers inbox. You could also jump in the nasty chat. How excited were you that Otani is a Dodger?
Well,
One of the few people in Edmonton that would be excited
Yeah,
about the
it would-
news that happened with Otani.
you know,
Actually, in a room full of people that aren't upset by it.
No, yeah, we're neutral,
Not
but you
upset.
knew all along, right?
Well, I thought, but then the whole Jays thing, like they're getting rid of the NHL deal, they're replacing this. It's a corporate decision. I'm like, this is making way too much sense. And the people that are mad at the reporters in the U.S., I don't know why. They got used just like the Jays got used, just like the whole fan base got used. The agents for Otani set this up brilliantly with lockdown nuclear secrecy, and then they just decide to leak that Otani's on his way to Toronto, so an extra $100 million gets added to it. So I was like thinking it was Toronto, or maybe the Cubs would sneak in or something. And then I got a text from Jack Cookson. My wife's like, "Do you know who signed?" And I was almost as excited as when they won the World Series in 2020, and in disbelief, because I thought, wow, this puts them over the edge. And then the fact that he's getting $2 million and it's legal, and he offered it to every team. Like, this guy was going to a team to win and make a lot of money later in life.
Well, he also apparently it's not apparently, he makes a lot of money through endorsement deals right now.
That's the thing.
It's like Jay Leno used to never spend, I think,
The Tonight Show money.
The Tonight Show money, because he made so much when he did stand up that it just split. Otani is basically saying my baseball money could come later.
Otani's
I
going to
can
make
deal with the
$50 million
season?
in endorsements.
Yeah.
So he can take $2 million. Like, he's the 17th ranked Dodger in salary, and not every player. And people are like, well, every team should do this. Sure,
in the
convince
CBA.
the player to do it. Yeah. And the other thing, Otani's not taking any interest. Bobby Bonilla gets 8% interest on his July 1st Canada Day payments. But Otani's not doing any interest. So he's offering this to every team, saying, here's the deal that I'm going to give you, blah, 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 blah. We're going to win. That's what I want. And it helps him. You know, I'm not an accountant, but I did some research. After 10 years, you move out of the place where you were, your tax laws don't.
Yeah, it doesn't
count for where you made the money in. It's the same thing why Bobby Bonilla doesn't live in New York anymore. I'm not a tax expert, but I did read this. So he's doing everything to help the team. Oh, yeah, and help himself. How could you be mad?
Well, because your team didn't do it. And
Yeah, but if your team did it, he would have gave
You're
him
getting
this.
the guy. You
I
didn't
know.
get the guy, so now you're frustrated. You go, how's this?
It's like
And we
LTIR in
haven't-
hockey. You see other people abuse.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The
Well, if you
Kucherov,
did it,
right?
We
yeah, I
haven't
mean,
seen it,
And it's
really to this
100%
level.
legal.
Yeah.
It's right in the CBA.
It says there's no limit.
I believe. I bet they're going to try to get rid of that next CBA.
Well,
right?
good
Like
luck.
now that it's
but
happened.
that's how it happens.
Good
though.
luck. What's baseball have that, or what is baseball the one sport? They don't have a salary cap. Why? Because their union is strong.
But do the
Good
players want
luck.
to get rid of the deferred payment?
Why? It helps their teams.
But if we don't see it happen, I think this is a situation where the owners could be like, we want
Max
to get rid of
Scherzer
this.
has done it. Mookie Betts has
Mookie
done
Betts
it.
is doing it.
Like Bobby Bonilla is the big one, but it's happened.
It's and one. It's.
But you have
I think
to
it's just the
find the
level
player
of it.
because
It's
not
just
every
80,
not
right?
every player gets
Wants that.
$50 million in endorsement. Not every player can do it. You know, like athletes are famous, some athletes, for going through their money. Or athletes have big families, as in the quarterback that Connor Halley loves so much.
Oh,
Phillip
people
Rivers,
value money in
right?
different ways. Yeah,
So
it's all,
not every player can defer it.
I would say if I was a baseball player, knowing this rule now, I probably would always have half my money
I would
deferred
try,
to the
yeah.
end of my career.
Why not?
Especially when you get
Because it's
interest
just-
on it.
Well, I would probably go, yeah, pay me half. Like if I'm making even $3 million, I can live off of 1.5 right
But, like,
now.
here's the thing.
And then when I'm done my career, knowing I have just some steady
If you
income
can,
still coming
if you can
in,
live on that, like Aaron Judge.
1.5,
Well,
1 million.
that's
my thing. I
yeah,
think I
okay.
like,
This is Matt Iwanyk hangout talking. You put a Yankee hat
25th
and
floor.
put you in left field. You're not living on 1.5 million in New York, man. You're,
Well,
there's no
I
way
want a
you
higher
are.
contract at that point.
25th floor.
Aaron Judge makes only
It'll be
five.
higher.
I'm just saying.
In New York, it'll be higher.
But that's it. You
But
are.
this is why Otani can do it. He makes 50 million. Aaron Judge makes 5. Not every player can
Well,
just live off of their
he's got the
endorsements like
Asian
Jordan
market.
and things. Well, yeah, he gets all of it. And don't kid yourself. The Dodgers probably already have how much lined up for sponsorship in Japan already?
Oh,
They would have had it done. Like the Dodgers are going to make probably more. Well, not probably. The Dodgers are going to make more than Otani on this contract. The Angels were making 25 million extra off
As a
of Otani.
non-competitive
Yeah,
team.
So in a year.
Like-
So this is the
Like, well,
don't-
baseball's happy too. Like, and I know,
Well, yeah,
I know there's people
most
that
of
are
the teams,
upset.
yeah.
Are with like Ken Rosenthal and John Hyman wrote articles saying, you know, they were upset that the article said this is good for baseball, him being in this big market, and Toronto's being viewed as this small market in baseball. And unfortunately, Jays fans, in baseball terms, you are a smaller market, not small though.
Toronto's entire country is the size of California, basically. That's a small market.
Yeah.
But for baseball, what's good for baseball is what's good for the business of baseball. That's where their articles went. And let's say a Yankees-Dodgers World Series, which we haven't seen since, the 60s or whatever it is.
Be the best.
You have Aaron Judge and Juan Soto and Garrett Cole going up against Mookie Betts and Shohei Otani. Like,
It's no Diamondbacks Rangers.
Freeman, like,
Like,
you know,
it's-
Freeman, like that is better for baseball business as a whole, bringing eyeballs to the sport as a whole than if it was Jays versus Dodgers. Because Dodgers are such a good team, they still have a chance. Like it's those markets, New York and LA, matter.
Yeah.
And if you could get the Dodgers into the World Series with Shohei Otani, from a baseball business, it's the same as like Connor McDavid. Best for business would have been if he was a Toronto Maple Leaf.
Sure.
And if Austin, like that's not saying that's the best spot for him or anything, but for business of the NHL, having your best player in one of
Promoting
your
yourself,
biggest
yeah.
markets, that is a big deal. So it does suck for Jays fans, but if you get Otani in the blue of the Dodgers to a World Series, that is so massive.
I just thought the whole anger at the reporters. I mean, reporters get used all the time. Leagues leak stuff when they want to certain reporters. League executives, high league executives are leaking stuff. Agents are leaking stuff all the time. Like, listen, as a reporter, it might be a nice ego boost that an agent or a league executive is reaching out to you with this great story. They're not doing it out of the kindness of their heart. They're doing it because they have an agenda. And reporters get used all the time. And that's what happened. Reporters got used in this, a country, a fan base, and a team.
Fan base big time.
And I want to ask you as a Dodgers fan, and you I think maybe
Yeah, I think it was
knew,
dirty by the agent. I
but
thought it was dirty.
you knew this was all going to happen in
Yes.
because as what we just talked about, the whole thing makes too much sense. But in these storylines, you need a jobber. Jays check. Country of Canada, check. Like you've all bought in, and you're talking winter meetings
got
and all
the
baseball's
heel.
boring. This whole week, that whole weekend, the Friday show. I mean, whether or not it happens or not, you've got, and what do we? It's 2023. You
Otani,
just want
yeah.
clicks. You want, whether it's negative, positive, or whatever. People are getting a feeling. You're talking about baseball. Morosi too. Like he knows the part he plays, and that's why I
But
want to
what's
ask
he
you.
going to do? Not go with it? Like,
But I want to ask you, how far deep do you think this whole thing, like the old Hrgovic on the Jet, like the whole agency, like do you think everybody was
Because
in?
he's a client of the agency.
Like
Yeah,
how deep the G Zipman Twitter account? Like how deep?
I think.
How do you follow the string
I
here?
think the leak was Otani's on a plane to Toronto. That's what I think the leak was. I don't think the
Coincidence that
Dragons
he's-
did.
yeah,
I
that's
think
all.
it was a
What I-
private plane. Maybe they looked and said, "Oh, this guy's flying." Maybe they'll
Same
think
style.
it. And
That's-
so-
That's what I think. I think because he is a client of theirs. I don't think they said, "Hey,
Go get
come
on
to
a
LA.
plane."
We're going to
Yeah.
put you on a plane. We're going to fly you to
stunt.
Toronto."
It was
I
a
think they
convenient
saw,
yeah.
flight.
Oh, hey, by the way, do you know Robert
But
Herjavec is
listen,
flying to Anna or back to Toronto?
You know why they
oh, no
maybe
way.
did it?
And then they did.
But
Do you know
Twitter
why they
account.
maybe did it?
G Zipman.
Kawhi Leonard. We did this exact
I know, yeah,
same
yeah.
thing. Like maybe we should be looking, and I'm not saying I was involved in it because I'm a Dodgers fan.
Sure.
But maybe Jays fans collectively or Canadian fans have to say,
It goes to Babcock. They follow Babcock.
Yeah,
yeah,
the
so,
Babcock jet.
so
The
maybe it's
Babcock
like
jet. It goes
maybe
back
it's
to them.
us. Maybe it's the Canadians and us that let's just calm down
But
a
when
little
you're used
bit.
once, you'd think you'd
I
like,
guess
and then you're
it-
used again.
It's
and
like
you
the
can't
girlfriend
resist.
and
Oh,
the
man.
boyfriend going back. Listen, I've been yanked back and
The
forth.
Buffalo
a couple of
Bills. I'm a
times.
Bills fan.
You're
and
right.
all that
Wide
talk,
right.
the flirtation with Ryan is exhausting and nauseating.
And
just
this is what it was weird on Friday. The best thing, this was the best thing for anybody that wanted to promote stuff because the tweets I saw that had hashtag Otani watch. I couldn't. I was like, I'm like, well, that's it. Like
Otani jet?
Anybody that wanted to promote anything,
We should have
all
done
they
that
had
to
to
all
do.
of our Edmonton Sports Talk
That's
tweets.
what I said.
Hashtag Otani watch.
I told our
Yes.
guys, just put anything out about the
Yes.
JPHL right now, hashtag it Otani watch, and people are going to see it because
I-
I was looking, I'm like, there was some pretty gross stuff
Yeah.
that was
Oh, yeah,
going
yeah,
out.
yeah.
and
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah,
this
yeah.
is awful.
I just
Like,
tweeted out Otani, not even a hashtag.
Yeah.
Just his name,
It's
and that
crazy.
gets you in the mix.
It's weird.
It was a great,
it was-
but you're right. A lesson for marketing and everything because that's how this.
That's how you jump
all
on
of
that.
these stories. And
It's
give
a
it to me,
viral
but give
minute,
it to
right?
me more.
Yeah.
I want more of these Twitter accounts and jets and all this stuff, and I'm here for it. The G Zipman Twitter account that was dormant
Oh,
for
my
10 years
goodness, eh?
issues a tweet and then delicious stuff. It's
was-
like Colangelo levels of.
It was entertaining for me to watch from afar, although I was getting a little bit
part of it.
worried because I'm
What
thinking,
was your level of worry though? Did you ever buy in or believe? I mean, nothing
like
was ever.
6.5 to 7 out of 10. After I read one article that made so much sense, I'm like, holy, they are setting this up.
Was it the
And
Steve Simmons article?
It
About
might have
the
been
NHL deal?
which might have
'Cause
been
that's
one,
the one that
it
got
is
me.
Toronto Sun, right?
Yeah.
That's the one I read. I'm like, holy, he's putting a lot of things that make sense that the organization is doing, which and then the plane and everything. And then I think it was about Jack Cookson sent me a text.
Prime Sports, baby.
Yeah, he always
Love it.
sends me anything about Kirk Gibson because he doesn't consider him a Dodger legend when he is obviously one of the greatest Dodgers of all time. He sent me a thing and he said, "What does this guy and Shohei Otani have in common? They're both not Dodgers." It was Gibson and so
somebody
I said
jinxed it.
later on. I said, "But not a J either." And that's when I started. Okay, they haven't announced it. There's not. This other guy got off. This isn't happening. The Jays got used, and I still thought maybe somebody else was gonna slide in. I was still. And then when it happened on Saturday, I was like, okay. But I was probably like 6.5,
Yeah.
7 out of 10.
Retrospect, hindsight 2020, learned my lesson for this is that I didn't see, looking back, we didn't see a single tweet on anything Otani on Friday from Ken Rosenthal or Jeff Passan. And those two guys are
Jeff
kind
Passan,
of the
yeah.
top guys now.
Well,
And-
that's
and
what
that-
people were saying.
That should have been
And
the
he
signal.
put it out, right,
He's the
Passan?
one that got in there with full contract details and everything. That's the moment we should have realized on Friday going, yeah,
Somebody got
Morosi's
used.
posting this and
He got
all these.
used.
But hold on. Why aren't Rosenthal and Passan? When are they posting? Wait till they post something. Like, to me now, there is the level of, okay, we've got the Adam Schefter and Rappaport.
Yeah.
There's the Jeff
seal of
Passan, Ken
approval.
Rosenthal. There's
Draggers.
The Dragger, Bob McKenzie when he comes out for those special days.
Elliot
Elliot
Friedman,
Friedman.
obviously.
Like, that's what you have. And outside of that, the Adrian Wojnarowski, until you see it from those guys, always take it with a little bit of grain of salt that it might not happen. And for Morosi, I guess the thing is you could choose not to do it, and but in the end, there's two ways he could go about this now. One, he could say where he got it from, if he felt he got used. Or what's most likely going to happen, they probably went like, yeah, sorry, bro, we used you, but we'll take care of you moving forward. And he'll get a couple of scoops from CAA that are big to make up for this, or he's already had that. They've given him stuff and said, hey, look, we've given you a lot. We needed this one from you, and he's going to have to deal with it. If you want to be a quote-unquote insider, I guess you have to live with that.
A useful so-and-so. You could, you know what I mean? Like a...
Yeah, he's not going to reveal any of his sources because nobody would ever give him anything again. So he's going to have to eat this one.
Yeah, but I guess if you come out and say like, look, they used me completely, and you don't, I'm never going to trust them myself again.
That's
like the only
way.
reason I'll never reveal a source type thing. But this one, they completely made me look like a fool.
Yeah.
They used me completely.
That'd be
They
an
lied to
interesting
me.
angle, hey, if
hey, I'm not trusting these, but I got it from the agency. And then he gives up on the agency. Now, that's
but
not
then
going to happen.
everybody else is looking at you saying, is this guy going to do this to me? Because
Well, just
I've been
don't lie
burned
to
by
him.
people before. I've been lied to, and I've went out and said stuff.
But I guess if you're thinking about whether I give stuff to Morosi or not, it's if I give him lies, he's going to tell on me.
So
but if not, he's going to
learn
be
to
cool
trust.
about it.
Okay, who do you trust now? And
News cycle goes.
Yeah,
he'll be back.
we'll forget.
It's just
Well,
but this is all. It's clips.
this
It's
happened last year with
traffic.
Judge.
Driving traffic. Exactly. Arson Judge.
Remember Judge last year?
Arson Judge.
Yep.
Big fire.
Well, John Heyman got that one right.
That's what I mean.
The Yankees today, when they got Juan Soto, made fun of John Heyman with one of their tweets.
That's what I mean. So
because
this happened exactly
he said
last year,
something.
and notobody is ripping John Heyman still.
Watch
because
it
it was one tweet that was like
Not a
it
series of
wasn't
imminent,
like
and he's on the plane, and
yeah. Well,
But is it still the same
that's
thing?
pretty big. Yeah,
He's-
John Morosi still only did one tweet, really.
Like both guys got used.
Yep.
And like I said, it's a common occurrence, unfortunately, and reporters have to pick and choose.
but it's part of the game now, especially with Twitter. That's the
It
game. You
is.
got to be engaged and playing the game, and whatever character you are, protagonist, antagonist.
It's like I got burned one time. I asked Ralph Kruger about Dustin Penner getting traded according to a Nick Kiprios trade, which was a fake Nick Kiprios.
I got caught on that one.
I
gave
was
that
in a
to
press
Stoff.
conference asking Ralph. Were you in a press conference with all your colleagues asking about a fake trade?
I gave it to Stoff when I worked with him. He went on air with it, and then I had to tell him it wasn't
that
wrong.
would have.
And he was not happy with me. Yeah, he wasn't happy with me.
That's why I wish we would have had studio cameras.
Oh, he wasn't
The
there.
steam.
He was at the in the oil drum.
The steam
So I didn't even
This
see
is
him.
the
would have been
talkback
coming
game.
out of his
You
ears.
Yeah, he wasn't happy with me. He wasn't happy. He also thinks I'm Trina's oil, which
Oh, really?
yeah. When I was first year of radio for me, working with Stoff, and he was telling people I was Trina's oil.
Wow,
which
that was a
I
heck
am
of an
not.
insider that in your first year.
she's still. Yeah, I know. Like I had all the
Is
insights.
that account still around?
Oh, yeah.
It's
I
still
have
going.
not seen anything from it in a long time. So
pops up
Yeah,
every
no.
once in a while.
I guess maybe I still tweet from it.
Yeah,
You know,
you
tell us, Matty.
But no, I learned that was when I learned to always fully double check an account.
Yep.
Click it, see how many followers they have.
yeah, two things: click an account, look for the check mark when it used to be,
Yeah.
and don't trust Wikipedia. That's the other thing that I've learned because that gets changed a lot
Easily,
on
yeah.
different people and things like that. So young reporters, if there still are any. There still young reporters out there with the TV stations all closing, but come
Yeah, I
to
don't know what
production
happens.
companies. We'll take you all. But young
well, that's
reporters out
where
there
it's gonna
need
come
to.
from.
It's pro wrestling. I'm here for the pro wrestling of sports
in the
reporting.
day of clicks,
Well,
likes, bait, all that stuff, you
it's-
have to be so much more careful than when I started and there was no internet.
Well, you know the soccer world, like there's rumors flying all over the place in terms of transfers.
Transfer windows
and they
are
go
insane
from
in terms of
and
yeah.
like on Reddit at least they tier like the subreddits of each club. They have rankings for reporters.
wow.
You'll get a gold,
that
silver,
there's like
silver,
a tier one
yeah.
reporter. So when
How
this
long
tier
is the
one
transfer
reporter
window?
Well, it happens in the summer and in the winter. Like
January's
January,
a month, and then the
there's
summer's a
over the
couple
summer.
months.
So it's like a long time.
But
of
there's
crazy
always
rumors.
talks
It
throughout
is
the whole
just such
season.
crap.
It's 12
And
months.
just.
But like
And
you'll
an
have
account from
Oh,
Africa
so there's
will serve
rumors
as
even
it.
outside of the
always
transfer
rumors.
window
Oh, no,
too.
it's-
But then you go on the subreddit and there'll be like this one guy who says something, and then they go, "What tier is it? Oh, it's tier 5." So this is trash. But they
They
fully
used to do that on
rank
Hockey's
tiers.
Future as well. Like, no, not Hockey's Future. Who's that guy that was the Eklund? It was like an E5.
Hockey Buzz.
Oh, yeah,
Hockey Buzz was like, oh, this is an
Hockey
E5
Buzz,
or whatever, an Eklund 5.
Yeah, there's a bit of a grading system, a tiering.
He came up with his own. I remember when my brother was still at Sportsnet, they brought that guy in for
I
a trade
remember that
deadline
one.
and like had him like hidden, like he was in the witness protection program or something. I'm like, oh my god,
Voice on.
Yeah, exactly.
Trying to beat TSN in that way, and I don't think that one worked
I
well.
don't think it worked out.
You know, soccer fans, like, they rank the reporters, and they fully have tiers. And when you get tier 1, you go, "This is legit.
So
this
Jeff
is going to
Passan,
happen."
Rosenthal
Jeff
would be
Pass
tier
would be
1,
tier
yeah.
1. John Morosi now is probably like he'd probably be a tier 2 fully. He would not for sure be a tier 1.
But in entertainment, he's a tier 1, and I'm like accuracy in entertainment. What are we like? There's got to be a
accuracy.
combined.
So did you
combined
enjoy
analytic
it?
to that?
Like, no, as a non-Jays
loved the
fan.
flight.
Well, look, and I'm a different cat. Okay, like with everything, I'm
Yeah.
not.
You-
I don't
really?
I don't like your awards and your lists and all this. Like, I whatever. But the
Chaos.
romanticism and the chaos of sport and just the seeing people lose their minds and get so into a story and then be so disgusted by a story and everything happening.
Yeah.
And I just think with how information's put out there, received, digested, and everything nowadays, like Morosi, like he should not care. It's all,
And maybe
as
he
you say,
doesn't.
it's gonna. There'll be another thing that comes, and there'll be another thing that happens, and you can just continue on doing this stuff, and people can't resist.
Yeah.
I mean, I said Toronto, you've been jobbed now, and look, if it happens again in a different, they'll
you know what?
do it again. They'll bite because they're
If, if
human.
it happens again, that's on you as a fan base.
No,
now.
no.
I understand.
I will say that. Like,
'Cause
you
you've
can't
been
get
burned.
caught in on this.
No,
Well, just don't get so like don't
Sucked up
plane
as
watching.
much.
but
like,
you love
they're-
the ride.
Yeah.
The ride,
The
man.
ride is fun.
If I
Basically-
puke, I don't care. The ride's
Basically,
fun.
Otani's agent was Lucy, and all of Canada was Charlie Brown. And that football guy.
Well,
But
let's not
I'm,
go all
I'm
of
going for that
Canada.
kick every time, man. I love it.
Jays fans in this
Jays
country.
fans
Yeah,
You're in a
Canada.
room full of 3
Yeah.
people who aren't Jays fans in
Jays
here. You
fans
know?
in Canada were Charlie Brown.
Actually, the three of us can. I mean, it would have been insufferable as
Yeah.
a casual Mariners supporter to be told, "Hey, what are you doing, Otani? It's what are you like?" Like shoved it down your throats. I mean, it wouldn't have changed my life being here in Edmonton. It's such a big thing for Canada. I get the global appeal.
Yeah.
I get the player who he is, but we hate Toronto 6.75 days of the week.
Yeah.
But when it comes to baseball, my heritage is questioned. My everything. Oh, you show me your
It's
passport.
almost the same
Well,
as
no,
when
you
there's
can't do that.
like one Canadian team left in the playoffs and you're not cheering for it. It's like, really? That's not my team.
I hate that one.
I can
I would
understand-
never cheer for the
I
Leafs
hate
or
that
the
one.
Flames in the playoffs.
I understand people doing it, but it doesn't. It's not a blanket thing for everybody.
Yeah.
you can't assume everybody's just going to
In
jump on
Vancouver, you're
board.
gonna have a lot of Mariners fans.
But
And
Yeah.
like I don't know. I was a Yankee fan. I'm always a Yankee fan. That is my number one team.
For whatever
But
reason.
I always loved the Expos too. For my Canadian
Yeah.
team, I was an Expo, not
As
a
did
Blue
I.
Jay.
Counted.
So I'm not going to switch my Canadian allegiance to the Blue Jays when I cheer for a team that's a division rival of theirs.
Yeah.
And I cheered for the other Canadian team. Like, I hope one day the Expos come back so I could cheer for the Expos again.
But
type
Jays
thing.
fans
So
get
I'm not going
so-
to jump in on the Toronto Blue Jays
Yeah.
personally because that's not who I am for this. And
Yeah.
like, don't get me wrong.
I like the Raptors run. It was great.
I want
But-
the Blue Jays to have success because it's fun.
It is.
When,
Yes.
Like when I was when we were all on
I don't
TSN
wish them
1260,
failure.
when the playoffs were happening and Connor and I were watching the bat flip,
Yeah.
and then later on Hernan and I were watching. It was fun.
You lose
It was-
yourself in the
It
whole
was
thing,
like I'm not cheering, but I'm excited and I'm
For other people.
I like talking about it, and people are texting, and you go into a bar and people are excited. So I like that. But I don't care. I'm not like mad or happy if the Blue Jays win or lose. I just enjoy the moment.
And I'm on the flip
Dodgers on
side.
the other. I'm
that's
freaking out when they lose, right?
And I'm on the flip side now. They're not naturally like the biggest rivals of the Yankees, but they are divisional
especially
with the
with you.
Yankees. So
Especially with
I
you.
do
Yeah.
cheer against the Jays.
Yeah, I hate
because
the Giants,
I
too.
want the
Same thing.
Yankees to be the best in the AL East. I
Dude,
don't want that competition.
I
there.
don't even-
And so, like, I actually am happy when the Jays lose
Yeah.
as just a Yankee fan.
But when the Olympics
from
roll
a
around, you
baseball.
cheer for Canada.
I
Like that-
can't-
and-
right.
and that shouldn't be.
I can't cheer for any other National League team. I hate all, and even I was an Expos fan, like as a little kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But once I became a Dodger fan,
That's your team.
I hate them all now, and the Giants I hate just a little bit more. But I can't cheer for a National League team in the World Series if the Dodgers aren't in it. And you know how painful it is to have had to want Houston to win because I didn't want a National League team.
Really, you still cheered for Houston over a National League
It's
team
a
on that
National
one?
League
Houston
team.
over a National League team. Well,
Oh, that one because they took the title from you.
That's how weird it is for me.
I don't. I couldn't
didn't
do
want.
that. I would cheer for,
but I couldn't watch, and
Could I cheer for the? I couldn't cheer for
I
the
was
Red
like,
Sox over the Astros.
Actually, I just wanted nobody to win, which is impossible. But I couldn't root for either team really. But if you put
Those
a
are
gun
the
to my
worst
head,
ones.
I would have had to pick the American League team because I don't want to see any
You
National
have your
League
lines.
team.
You have your lines, and you stick to that.
Gene Principe told me last week on Game Changers, he once turned down a job in Calgary because of the Battle of Alberta. And people were like, what are you talking? Like, that's crazy. He's like, no, as a young kid, I grew up an Oilers fan. It felt weird to have to, take a job in Calgary. And I thought, that is taking...
That's pretty bold. I think
and now he's got a dream job.
Money, right?
But now he's got a dream job as the Oilers host,
100%.
the team. So it's
the
like
head coaching thing.
And I almost said, Gene, if Grant Fuhr can go play for the Flames, you could have went and worked in Calgary, right? Like, of all people, Grant Fuhr and Steve Smith, I think, both played for the Flames. The two guys responsible for maybe the second saddest moment in Oilers history behind Gretzky getting traded.
Is Grant Fuhr responsible?
No, the two guys involved.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, I just would like...
Not responsible,
Is he a little too... I don't know. Is he too far in the net or something?
1986, Dean Millard blamed Grant Fuhr because I was an Andy Moog guy, right?
Okay.
So I always thought
you've grown up, and
I've actually matured, and I'm only giving Grant like 10%. No, but like I went to this is the two things. I went to school the next day and said it's Fuhr's fault, and also the Oilers scored and the refs didn't count it. That's how delusional I was at that
like
point.
A Chiefs fan.
Exactly. Yeah, good one. And then you get older and you're like, okay, this is silly. But that's what I'm saying. If Steve Smith and Grant Fuhr can both play for the Flames, Gene probably could have worked.
Yeah. But you applaud Gene for that.
I guess
it worked out.
It worked out pretty well for him
these days. Yeah.
You could sit there and just say it fully worked out.
It did, yeah.
D. Millard, Lieutenant Eric, Matt Iwanyk with here on the EST Hangout presented by Mott's Clamato Caesar. Can you guys, could somebody try to explain to me why the Kansas City Chiefs are this upset about a penalty call that was a penalty?
Because it has to be embarrassment.
Did he apologize today for his... With his chat with Alan post game, he's now slept on it like a couple of days, couple of years, and now he's like, well, maybe I was a little wrong, maybe I was a little.
I'm stunned at how much anger over a penalty, like a legit, like you look at that and you can't say he was behind the line.
But they're angry that they weren't warned, right?
But he didn't ask.
No, I get it. I get that.
This is what it is.
That's why I can't be
you
angry.
lined up offside. Dude.
I get in arguments with my wife sometimes. And
she's always right. That's what I've learned in life.
She's a saint, Dean.
I call it an anger coma.
Okay.
I get so angry, and the voice in my head is like, dude, you're wrong. And I'm like, shut up, boys. I'm going here.
Yeah.
I'm anger coma. I'm not getting out of it. Therapy has worked wonders in that regard. And Brian Rashog is the greatest line. Therapy is like an oil change. You can always use it to, for maintenance. But therapy has helped in that regard. But I would get into this anger coma, I call it, where I know I'm wrong, but I'm still going. And that's almost like what the Chiefs are. They're just doubling down.
You dug in. Yeah.
And, it's the dumbest argument of all time when there's blatant evidence.
But it's not they're mad that they weren't warned about it. Which referees
but they're mad that it was even called. Andy Reid says
BS.
And it's been called like a bunch of times this year.
I saw this one Chiefs fan on Twitter yesterday. Like he's like, I found of this ref like a bunch of games where they didn't call it.
Went through all the tape.
And I'm
what rabbit hole are you going down?
I was going through all these pictures. And I'm like, the majorities aren't even offside, though, dude. Like, what are you looking at? Like,
they're just looking for something, right? They know they've lost the argument.
He was a good half yard past the ball.
Yeah.
And the other one's
see the ball.
The other one's like, guys, helmet's over the line, but it's at an angle, and you're like, well, clearly you're at an angle, so you can't necessarily say that right now. And this guy's posting, and some people are replying, like, what are you seeing on this play?
But when talking to Chiefs, I mean, there's that Garter tackle that always lines up, almost traditionally offside, and now it's like a Chiefs rule that
if there was a pass, like, if
but not as bad as it was there, like
no,
an
that is but usually he'll jump or he'll jump early, like there's a procedure, like they've been.
Well, the Packers, was it the Packers where they were upset that there was no pass interference?
That little game before, yeah.
Like, if we're talking about pass interference and, like, there's a gray area, I could sit there and be like, well, there's a gray area to this.
This is a debate.
I could see that you're upset about a non-penalty or a penalty or whatever because of the gray area. There is no gray area here. He was literally half a yard past that ball for lining up that way. Like,
it'd be like an NHL team scoring a game-winning goal or a game-tying, I guess it'd be a game-winning goal, and then it being called back on an offside.
But that game-winning goal was the most dazzling goal you've ever seen.
For
I
sure.
think that play, letting it develop.
That's probably why. If it was just a 20-yard hitch pass, that whatever, they're probably like, oh, not a big deal. But that's what it'd been like. And then you go back and you see, Nathan McKinnon is 4 feet offside, like, which is the reason that rule came in. And then arguing against it. It's like irrefutable evidence.
Because if the ref don't call that, Bills fans are going, why is that not a penalty?
Do you think that would even have been noticed?
Yes. Oh. On a replay, a Bills fan would have seen
I think
that.
if Chiefs fans going down the hole of the other official, then yeah, Bills
There
fans
would
would
have
have.
been
The
somebody.
mafia would be all over.
I don't think
mafia would be all over
the
that.
Bills in the moment wouldn't have recognized
That's what I'm.
it.
The Chiefs fan went
wouldn't
down
have.
because the call went back. If that goes off, unless the
On the replay,
on
there's
the
a Bills fan sitting there going, hold on a second, that's offside.
But
But unless
there's
the
an eye, there's an
broadcast flags it, unless they say, take a look at that, this guy's offside,
It'd have to be the broadcast.
I'm not sure a random fan is going back and saying, I think the random fan in KC did that because of the call.
Oh,
I'm
afterwards.
not
No, I know.
sure a random fan, if that call isn't made, goes back to watch that over and over again and sees that. Maybe they do.
100% they do.
Maybe because it's so blatant.
I'll explain why they do. I know Jason LeDuc hates me for this comment, but during the Grey Cup, there was a penalty that should have been called, where a guy had his helmet
right.
offside, and I saw it, and if other people saw it, I was texting your brother Luke.
Goal line,
and
goal
the
line,
goal
right?
line,
Yeah,
third
yeah,
down.
absolutely.
The Bombers' helmet was within the 1 yard, which is
Right.
a penalty,
Sure.
and it wasn't called, and they had the shot across, and I'm sitting there going, he's across the
Very
line.
obvious, yeah.
That's a penalty. And so as a fan, like I was able to notice that. I guarantee there's a Bill watching the first replay.
Yeah, you're right.
There's
It's-
a
Ball
obsessives out
snap
there.
and
You're
somebody
exactly
going,
right.
that's offside.
Some
And then that goes
Norwood
on
fan
Twitter and it gets blown up on Twitter like Otani jet and
No, but
it
that's-
goes.
yeah.
So no, I think there would have been someone, and then Bills.
You're probably
the
right.
next day the Bills would have come out maybe and be like, well, there's an offside on this great play.
But they'd
that
have more
cost
of a
us.
gripe than
But
the
I
Chiefs
think-
would be
because
today.
it's an
to have
actual
any gripe, 'cause
penalty.
it's a
And I don't think. Well, maybe I'm giving Bills fans and just sports fans in general more credit, but I was going to say I don't think they would have been as all in as Chiefs fans, but maybe they would be. Maybe it's just like maybe we're giving all fan bases too much credit. Like maybe if the Dodgers did get used, I don't think I would be here, but a lot of Dodgers fans would be saying that. And if the shoe was on the other foot, maybe Bills. Maybe it's just fans in general are so much more passionate, crazy,
Tribal.
whatever one.
Tribal.
Yeah, like
You're-
it's
Well,
just,
we got social media where we could just throw
that's
it out
what I
there
mean.
so
Like
quick.
it's just such you go from 0 to 60 so much faster than we used to. Like, some guys would chop down trees as anger would build, low tide. But others now they just explode with their
Well, 0 to
opinion,
60,
anger.
you can still do 30-20 over the limit. They're going 0 to 80. They're
Yeah.
going, and you can take it to really. You're tracking
Maybe it's
planes.
every fan base.
You're watching ref tape.
Yeah,
You're doing things that you would never.
Yeah, like you're like, what? Where is the limit? It's like, you remember that De Niro movie with Wesley Snipes with the fan?
Deer Hunter.
Where no, I just Godfather. The De Niro Wesley Snipes movie where he was a deranged fan. It's called The Fan.
Yes.
Like, I would be a little bit scared as a professional athlete these days, just because. Like, look what happened to Bartman, and that was,
Yeah.
and now I just
Well, I wouldn't be scared of that. I think
and soccer. Look at like in soccer.
but-
There's in international soccer, players have been killed.
Well, but you pause as a fan to say, why do I jump on this athlete for not being so public and open? You understand why?
No kidding.
Why would you?
There's not a chance I would be on
shut
social
myself up.
media. I would never be on
Not
social media if I was a professional athlete.
No way.
But
shape,
my
or
social media
form.
would just be endorsement deals.
Oh,
type
that's all
thing.
it is.
That's it. It would
You
just be
hire
endorsement
somebody else
posts.
is running
and
it.
somebody else is running it.
Exactly.
And then my
No.
career's over. That gets
Yeah.
deleted and
You
I'm
don't know the
gone.
login
That's
information.
exactly.
No, keep it all.
VR Montenegro on the Nasty channel. Well, Chad Jenkins versus, it's because they often line up offside and doesn't get called. VR Montenegro. I watched 7 plays they lined up offside
And they
in that
jumped
game
too.
alone and was never warned or flagged until the end. Precedent had been set. But here's the thing: like, I'm a guy that generally goes a little over the speed limit.
Yeah.
I drive by but we know that it's usually about when you're 10 over, you get hit by photo radar.
Sure.
And you get the ticket. If I
Sometimes.
get a photo radar that's 5 over, I was speeding.
That's right.
Right? Like in the end.
5 or 60, you're still
If
speeding.
I'm over and they hit me, the precedent has been set that we know it's about 10, 11 kilometers over.
yeah.
That's when photo radar is going to hit you. But if they lower that to 5 and don't tell me and I get hit by going
your
5
fault.
over on the Henday, I was going 5 over and
That's
it's
a
the
really
same
good
here.
analogy.
And maybe the human cop ignores it.
Well, right.
that's what I'm thinking. So here's
it's
the
like
letter of
this
the
is
law.
one where he lined up offside maybe for that, but that doesn't mean that means he just got away with it 7 times
Before.
in the game,
And that's a
and
good
now we got
analogy.
caught.
Because
You got to deal with it.
how many times? Like, I just know how many times, but how many times have you gone past a cop speeding
Yeah.
and he didn't pull you over? Right?
Oh, the highway. The highway is always what are you doing? 110, 119?
So in this case, they do give warnings when it's close. So let's say you're driving 103. Well, that cop's not going to pull you over. And so if he's over a little bit, that's 103. Well, now you're going 117. And Tony was 117 over, let's say. That's why they didn't give him the warning. They just threw the flag. Yeah. Right? And so that's the same thing.
Because it was very far.
If you're going 117, he's probably pulling you over. I actually had a cop one time I was doing on the Henday coming to TSN. He pulled up to me and gave me this. Slow down. I'm like, that is an amazing police officer to actually pull up beside me, do this, and then keep going.
Was he in uniform? I had an undercover do that to me once. He pulled up and he flashed the badge around his neck.
And and
I was like, whoa! And I slam on the brake. Okay.
So that's it's okay. He could have easily pulled me over. But in this situation, Tony was 117,
and also, but even if I don't get a warning,
it's your fault.
I was going speeding still. I sped.
But they do give warnings when you're close. When you're that far over, they're just like,
but within the game.
But also, and he didn't even look.
But that's the other thing, too. You could have easily just quickly look at the ref, give a arm,
and the ref's going to
let you know this or no, wave you off or whatever.
You got a freebie there.
That's flashing the badge.
And we don't even get that on the roads. I don't get that.
He saw the cop doing radar, and he flipped him the bird, basically, and he gunned it.
And now he's mad he got a ticket.
Yeah, there's marks.
But you mentioned,
and then he argued with the cop. That's what he did. The cop came up and he said, I wasn't speeding. You didn't give me... That's what the Chiefs did. They're arguing with the police officer.
But you didn't warn me. I was speeding.
That's what I mean. That's how stupid they are.
In game management with officials, and this goes to any sport, though, right? Like if you are saying, well... we all think that you should get warned, and then you don't, and you go back. None of these things are written in stone.
That's right. It's not a rule.
It's based on the individual reffing that game, where this guy gives us freebies, or this guy's very strict, and then you kind of have to...
Well, am I allowed to stand 2 yards offside?
Depends on the ref.
And just stand there and be like, hey, I didn't get warned.
Yeah.
Or am I getting called for a penalty?
Yeah.
I'm getting called for a penalty. So, I think you're right, too, that it's not like he was a little ahead of the bar.
Yeah.
If you look at that from the angle, he's a good half yard.
The referee said they couldn't see the ball.
Does the ref,
at that point, you're now just like, you're too far.
No, but does officiating set yourself up for this? Because if you've illustrated, say, I'm an official that warns guys repeatedly, or I'm an official that doesn't warn guys at all. Right. But in that case, then you've constructed a kind of game within a game.
Yeah.
And then to kind of... If a player's expecting you to react a certain way in a situation you don't,
that's
and you
on
set
them.
that up. But I just...
That's like thinking the forward's going to go left. It's Cole Trickle always goes wide, right?
But you can't... and I'm not saying I'm not excusing the blame for it, but I do understand where somebody might have that thought, where something's done in a certain fashion, then at the last minute it's...
And that happens. In the 90s WHL, there were referees, so the guys on the Wheat Kings would get kicked out of the face-off on purpose because they knew what with this one referee.
Yeah.
So guy gets kicked out, new guy comes in, puck dropped right away.
Yeah.
So the winger would go in, get kicked out, the actual centerman would come in and win the
and they knew to play it.
They knew
exactly.
it.
Yeah.
And so it was a tendency, right? And so maybe that could be the same thing. This ref always lets us away with it.
But if you're losing to gamesmanship like that, I don't care for your BS whining.
Yeah, you're right.
You gotta you gotta beat the game. Yeah. The dark arts in sports, you can cry all you want, but if you're crying, you're not the one taking advantage of it. It's the same as that LTIR.
Yeah.
Cry all you want. And it
Robin's
sucks
racing, right? If you're not cheating, you're not trying, they say.
No morality banners.
The Oilers screwed up last year with that. When Evander Kane had his cut, I said throw him on LTIR right there. Bring him back for the playoffs.
Yeah.
Go make an extra trade and use that cap space. And I was told, that's not honorable. I don't care. It's about trying to go win right now.
What do you mean honorable? It's not illegal.
This whole
go
honor
do what
thing,
you
though,
need to do.
I don't like that at all. I just
until the leagues want to overrule something, you go for it.
And here's the thing: you're talking about health with a person and somebody else's health, and so how is that subjective, right? So you're going to bring in Kane. What if Evander Kane, the NHL brings in an independent doctor because you don't want an Oilers doctor? Well, how is an independent doctor going to tell him he's not feeling pain?
Exactly.
He could say, "No, I am feeling pain." No, you're not. How do you know? You're you're
on that one too. It was even like he could just say, "I just don't feel right holding my stick." Something doesn't feel
and
off,
it's not safe. And you're not forcing a player back in the lineup who's saying, "I'm not feeling good." So I don't know.
A broken bone, you could tell if it heals or not through an X-ray, right?
But
like
you still
he still says he feels tingling.
Broken arm, one of these, I can't even remember which one. Yeah, this one, and I still have.
Kane says that too. Though. There's still issues.
So there's always going to be issues.
You could get through
what is how do you tell a team you got to get this guy off LTI,
Well,
especially if you're ever dealing with any kind of head issue?
There's
You're
an-
Yeah,
not.
well, that's
There's an excerpt in Jordan Tutu's new book, I believe,
Yeah,
that I
where
just
they
saw,
sent
where
him
he
down
talked
to-
about he was going to go down to Rockford, and he said, I don't want to go down. I got a family here. I'm not going. And I think Stan Bowman or whatever at the
said,
time
"Get your
said,
shoulder, yeah."
go get an MRI. We'll make something from there, which I don't think the NHL is probably happy that's in a
Not
book
at
right
all.
now.
Not
That
at all.
you're publicly saying that's what happened.
Yeah.
Even though we all know what happens, you don't want it on the
Or the
record
PA,
like that.
they're all
But
unhappy about
it's
it.
one of those where, like, yeah, you could easily just be like, yeah, something doesn't feel right. Oof. I think I'm gonna need another week or two. You know,
Put
it's
the
just
pressure on
Guys
the league
go
to
on
change the rule a little.
LTIR for a day so that teams or whatever it is, they go on the injury list and it's
It's there for you to take advantage of if you want to.
Listen, there's loopholes in life, and people are always going to expose them. You can close them all you
Always. want.
I have no idea how the Major League Baseball is ever putting the deferred payments back in the bottle. That's a genie I don't
that's-
think is going back in.
Here's how that one happens.
How does the
is
LTIR?
Because with the deferred payments, it's, as we've said, the majority of players can't do it. So if the majority of players are like, we don't want that, we get rid of that. If that's the concession the owners come with and say, get rid of deferred payments, we'll give you this. There are more non-star players that can't defer their payments as opposed to star players that can defer their
Maybe.
payments, and they can overvote.
But why would teams want to get rid of it if they
don't
could
know.
use it?
I think if you're
Like, why, the San Francisco Giants should be like, holy, we should do this more.
But if you're the Tampa
we'll
Bay
find a player.
Rays or
yeah,
the Kansas City
there
Royals
are
or the
the
Pittsburgh
have-nots, I
Pirates,
guess.
you sit there and go, well, we can't do that because we don't have the ability to pay for it maybe as much. And we would love Shohei Otani at a much cheaper rate, but we can't do that unlike you guys. We're
But
going to vote
why
against
couldn't
that.
they?
Loser mentality.
Like you're like
Baked in loser
the
mentality.
money, the money that Otani is making because there's no interest is actually going to probably be less than if he would have taken it up front.
Well, I guess the thing would be like, can the Pittsburgh Pirates even afford just straight up 680?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like the
Probably
Oakland
not.
A's can't, obviously.
Or even
So
for
those-
just destinations and markets.
But
You're
it's
eliminating
just-
half the.
I just don't.
That's why I could see, like, if you have 2/3 franchises that sit there and say, we don't want this.
Yeah, maybe
The Yankees,
Let's
Dodgers don't have a
remember-
voice at that point.
Let's remember that sports are controlled by a
haves.
handful of teams,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like Jerry Jones controls the NFL, as we saw Shooter McGavin play in Ballers. That was so good, the Jerry Jones Ballers guy. And then the different leagues are handled by. So I'm guessing Major League Baseball is the Steinbrenners, the Dodger Group.
It's your halves.
It's
It's
your
not
halves
run
that
by
are,
the
that are
have-not.
controlling
Yeah,
it. So I don't know.
That I could see that just because of the uproar. That now all of a sudden
See, it's
people
uproar
going.
from fans, though, isn't it? Like,
But
have you
then
heard
this
executives?
is a way to give it to your.
Have you heard any executives come out and speak out against this,
No.
even anonymously? It's all fans.
Yeah. Well, I guess we
Well-
have. I was just gonna say in hockey, have we heard people upset about the LTIR? We've heard a
Publicly?
couple. We've heard a couple of anonymous from teams.
Yeah, sure.
I think
but
we've heard.
in this
So baseball,
baseball,
no. I think you're
it's
right.
all
Not yet.
been fan
Yeah.
bases. I have not heard even an anonymous, and I could be wrong. So,
But even if
early days.
it's anger, it's your people are talking Major League Baseball dominating storylines here. We're
yeah,
mid-December. That's
after the 2 weeks of free agency where nothing happened.
That's baseball free agency.
It
baby.
is. It's last year it was great because they were coming out of the work stoppage, so everybody had to sign. This year was 2 weeks of crickets. We couldn't even find out Otani's dog's name. I've heard because his dog's name is Dodger. That's why they didn't want to tell anybody.
it's Gibson.
Oh, really?
That's what I was told. Somebody told me and maybe they just think it, but they said this is that they heard it. It was his name was Dodger, and that's why. Now I think that is playing into the conspiracy theory of it, and that's going down a bit of a
It's
rabbit
G.
hole.
Zipman.
But why are
The
they
dog was
not
the Twitter account all along.
This is the thing that they're so private. They're not giving any information. They won't even tell you his dog's name, and then this gets leaked. Like, this was a play from the very beginning. And, while I think it's a little bit dirty and greasy,
I love
I have
it.
to applaud
I
the
love
agency
it.
because, like, there should be a movie made
This
about
is-
this negotiation, man.
Well, I
E60,
wanna know-
30 for 30. We're
Yeah,
all.
whatever,
It's all going to
something.
I
happen.
want to know how much more money this move got them. Like, what was the Dodgers?
I bet you it
Dodgers
was another
final
100
offer?
million.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like what was
that's
the
what some
Dodgers'
people are
final
saying.
offer prior to this 700? Like, what was that number, and how did all this
How did
ploy
this
get
stunt
them
juice it up
to
to
scratched
700?
another $100 million out of the Dodgers. Oh my goodness!
And if you're the Dodgers,
who cares?
And a
you're
pretty
more
cheap
than
stunt.
okay with that.
The Dodgers set this up last year. They didn't bring anybody in. They got rid of Bauer.
This has been going for a few years.
They have
This isn't even
were
last
planning
year.
for
Yeah.
this.
And that's smart sports organizations. You're not just going to that offseason.
Yeah,
You plan ahead.
They
You-
were
you-
smart right up until Friday night when the agency played them for another $100 million, because then they got scared in the boardroom and said, "Here, have it all."
But this is why it's a little surprising that the Dodgers or the Padres traded Juan Soto to the Yankees and didn't wait till after Otani. Could have you gotten more from the Jays after this? Could have you gone to the Jays and said, "This is the Yankees' final offer. What can you offer us? You don't have Otani now, but you can have Juan Soto." And the fact that they made that move
That's a
before
really good
Otani
point.
really surprised me. Like, hey, as a Yankee fan, awesome.
Oh, sure.
Juan Soto, young player, great outfield now that the Yankees have. This is
yeah,
this
but
is
that's
sweet.
the
They
Padres.
still need pitching though.
The Padres
What could
have
have been
been
for the
making
Padres, then?
terrible decisions for a long time.
That's why,
We're
why
there.
would you not wait when you control this guy till Otani signs and then be like, we got the next big guy. Here you go, everyone. Market the price going up, and whatever.
No World
Maybe
Series.
again, a smart franchise does that, but
They just had a no-hitter a little while ago. Like, the only good thing about the Padres was ever Tony Gwynn. Like,
and
I'm
those
not a
nice
big-
new
spent
brown
so
caps
much
with the yellow
money.
SD. That's a sharp look, man. Come
Yeah.
on, that's a good look. Come on, I know you're residing in the.
What?
I know you're in the area. I
Look
don't
at
need
this. Like, this is sharp.
You
It's
like the
all
black
black.
on black, eh?
I love.
Every
I,
team does that.
I love the black.
You
on
love the black on
Dodgers
black,
now
yeah.
because we're the black hats. We're the
Yep.
we're taking over from you guys as the evil empire.
Nah, we're still always will be the evil empire.
We're evil empire.
I
West.
want this to happen now.
I
need a
well,
World
they
Series.
do,
between
The,
the
really.
two.
the Astros cost that.
Like
the
they-
Astros ruined that.
They
a few
haven't
years
had
ago.
it since
But
like the late
Is it the
70s
60s or 70s?
70s.
70s.
Reggie Jackson.
We gotta get
that
this
was,
thing going
That
now.
was Reggie Jackson basically defeating the Dodgers. They went 3 years in a row. Dodgers lost in 79, 80, and then they won in 81 after the lockout.
Jays fans will hate it. There'll be a lot of baseball fans that hate it. But if there's a Yankees-Dodgers World Series, it'll be some of the biggest TV numbers baseball will have seen.
Of course, yeah.
It's not
It will be that
Diamondbacks,
massive.
Rangers, Matty.
It is not Diamondbacks and
You
Rangers.
just be careful,
Yeah,
man. But
it's-
that's the point.
it's-
You want your big players.
If you're
Baseball
Rob
needs that.
Manfred,
Absolutely.
that's good for business.
Absolutely.
You're
Of course.
happy with
And
that
pissed
one.
off people still watch. They anger watch.
Especially
They
if the
hate watch.
Yankees could defeat the Red Sox in the ALCS and the Dodgers could defeat the Giants in the NLCS type thing. Like, that is like awesome. Like, or the Cubbies. That's what they want. And that's not what people want to hear.
That's
but
right.
That's just the reality of the business of these sports. And now, is it going to happen? Maybe not. We may not see it because, like, the Yankees have not gone back to the World Series since 09. There's a lot of, the Dodgers
wouldn't
could
people
have
wanna
won
hear it,
more.
though?
It's
Today,
the
like,
Dodgers
because they don't, because it's,
Like, I think
It's-
today, baseball cries out for that matchup. You want that. Those
but
two
not if you're a
markets in
fan
those-
against those, right?
Oh, fair enough.
You're a Jays fan. You do not want to hear that what's good for baseball is
Right.
Yankees versus
They've heard
Dodgers.
that about this Otani contract.
No,
It's
but
a-
I don't mind that. I don't mind that as opposed to these World Series where it's like
Yeah.
weird markets and Houston all over again. I'm as a
Kansas
neutral,
City.
I'm sick of that. No. Give me
like-
the big ones, especially now
Yeah.
with how you positioned yourself.
What would be the best in hockey? I feel like
Well, the best
it would be
the
Toronto,
NHL
Chicago.
Does, no,
I
the
think.
NHL does not want a Canadian team. In
I
the
think
Stanley
Toronto
Cup
would
final.
sell
Maybe,
down south, and
but
that's
they
the
would
only
much
Canadian team
rather
you could do
have
it.
two American
New York,
teams, right?
Chicago.
Oh,
Well, New York, Chicago, or why
They
not
had
New
Boston,
York,
Chicago.
LA?
West.
Like then
West
you
and
get
East.
two big markets again.
Because I don't think hockey is as big in LA, like as opposed to Chicago. That if you control, like the Chicago market would be all in.
Yeah,
I can't
but
say
you're
the
not-
same about the LA market.
But LA, you're
they
coast
would be
to
good.
coast.
Yeah,
Like that's the only thing. Like, are LA fans staying up
Well-
to watch New York, Chicago? Are West Coast fans staying up to watch New York, Chicago?
well, they don't have to stay up.
East Coast.
West Coast is
Oh
behind.
yeah, that's right.
They're fine.
But to your point, there's always
Never
that
mind then, Matthew, and
No,
your
but if you have-
time zones smarts.
championship in the East.
But would
with
they
two
even
East.
watch it?
Yeah.
Like,
Not
are they
as
going to
much.
the beach by then?
Exactly.
But I think you've got such a strong market in Chicago, and there's a name behind the
hell with the
Blackhawks
West. Yeah.
that it would be strong.
Like, do you, okay?
I
East
think
Co- do
Chicago's
you
one of the biggest, the best, like
Yeah.
Western Conference
Who did
markets.
LA
NHL would
play
have.
in their
Devils?
finals? Devils.
Devils was one of them,
That's not bad. You got the New
wasn't
York
bad.
area,
but not
we're-
the team.
But
not
not the
one.
team, yeah.
It's the third of the teams too.
You're
Even
right,
if it was
yeah.
the
Yeah.
Islanders,
There's tradition
And
there.
so-
and
It'd be
something to
different.
draw
You
from.
might make a good point. You do make a good point because maybe if you do have an LA team in there, then you're losing East Coast fans because
little
maybe
bit.
they're not staying
Yeah.
up. Like the casual fan might stay
Yeah.
and watch New York, Chicago, but they're not watching at 9:00 at night, the start of puck drop.
After Chicago, I'd put LA. Like, though, that was how I would rank the Western Conference teams from an NHL perspective. What's good for business? Because Chicago's
What's
massive.
Seattle like?
Vegas.
I guess we've never seen Seattle. That I don't know how big that
See,
would
like,
be.
I
Seattle
wonder-
is one of the biggest TV markets there is in
And
the
you
West.
have that Canadian, like, yeah, I was saying if Otani had ended up with the Blue Jays, that Seattle-Toronto secondary market ticket price
man.
would have been maybe one of the most expensive in baseball because you have the Japanese market and the Canadian market coming down.
That's why I'm surprised the Mariners weren't involved a little more
me too.
with Otani.
I wonder.
Anything on the West Coast, you
Like they
think
had
was,
Ichiro
yeah.
and like you're like
Yeah.
that we didn't hear more from the Mariners in that race.
I wonder if, I wonder what Seattle would be like in a final because you do have the maybe the Canadian flux and it is a huge TV market.
Yeah,
but
I didn't even think of Seattle in that.
But I'm like Anaheim and I guess that's kind of a little bit like LA.
But it's like the Devils type thing. It's not you want that team. It's the same. You don't want the Angels necessarily if you're baseball in the World Series. You want the Dodgers.
Yeah.
You don't want the the Mets are actually pretty big. I can't say that.
But they're not the Yankees.
You want the Cubbies.
But they're not the Yankees.
But they've got a good power behind
They're
them. Like I
not-
would say, like you want the Cubbies, not the White Sox in Chicago.
Yeah.
Sure. But
You
you want the Yankees over the Mets. Like I'm sorry. The Mets are still
I'll take
number
that.
2 by a long
Well, they're a
shot.
Mickey Mouse. The money spent and the nothing. Like they're fun to watch in a negative
they're,
way.
They're the butt of a lot of jokes.
Yeah.
Like I used to listen to a lot of Howard Stern, and Gary Dell'Abate was a huge Mets fan, and they ripped on him all that he was the butt of jokes, right?
I think they know that now. Like they've kind of that's how
Maybe,
they.
yeah. So I think you're like, Dodgers over Angels, Cubs over White Sox, Yankees
But
over
the Angels
Mets.
are a joke too, and so are the White Sox, right? Like they're all just kind of that.
Yeah. And then
Mickey Mouse kinda-
Rangers and Islanders over Devils. It's funny.
In that
eh?
order too.
Yeah.
Rangers over Islanders,
sure,
I would
yeah.
say too. That's
Yeah.
what you kind of
Yeah,
want with
Manhattan, right? That's the center of the universe.
Knicks over Nets. Lakers easily over Clippers.
Yeah.
Like it's you have those what the leagues would prefer. Now, look, if the Clippers were taking on the Nets in an NBA championship, league would still be pretty happy with that. But in the back of their mind, like, if
Well,
only
who would you
one of
go
those-
Rams over Raiders if they were still there?
If I don't recall the Raiders being in LA much, so I wouldn't know. But Rams versus Chargers, I would say it's equal.
Yeah, Rams.
Was it Rockies White Sox? Was that when were the White Sox in there? They were in there
in the-
years back in World Series. Rockies too with Tulo.
That was Red Sox.
Red Sox.
Rockies,
Red
Red
Sox.
Sox, I
Rockies.
believe.
Red Sox.
Yeah.
So Rams Chargers. It
I
has to be
think-
the Rams, right?
See,
Can't be
feel
the Chargers.
I feel like LA has no care of either of those two teams that
Really?
much. That if the Chargers got to a Super Bowl, they would be all in on the Chargers just because it's the Chargers. Now, maybe from an NFL perspective,
Like that's a
I guess the
market.
Rams because
like,
the
different shade of
history,
blue.
the history
Yeah.
of the Rams, like being in Super
they've
Bowls,
been there longer too.
like both in St. Louis and in LA, they've now won Super Bowls. That may be the Rams, but I think they
the
would just be
Rams.
happy with LA being in a Super Bowl at that point.
But the NFL wants one of those teams in the Super Bowl. It's their biggest
I don't-
market.
But
It's their
because they're
second
so,
biggest
I know,
market.
but I think
Psycho
it's
too, like
but I
it's-
don't think that it's like every other team we're talking about. I don't know if they have a full like one team over the other
Yeah.
because they're so new in LA
Really?
and LA doesn't care fully yet about the NFL.
Whichever one's hot.
Yeah, but
just
LA
throw.
has had football for a
Yeah.
long time.
different
Like,
colors, Raiders.
But it doesn't
Tigers,
seem like they
and-
have that
I
passion
guess it's kind
about
of like a
Rams or
transient
Chargers.
team.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I remember there was when the Rams
Like
were
a
going.
like Vegas is you have a lot of great fan base, but you have a lot of people going there to watch the other team.
Well, and they know too. They know that the hockey team is there. It's not something that's come from another market and been
That's
dumped
true,
upon
yeah.
them, and that goes far in that market.
That's
They-
what we did talk about the last time we were here about Vegas.
They make a lot of noise
expansion.
on
the
that.
NHL was the
getting there
brilliant
first.
move. Yeah.
I remember one of the Rams Super
And
Bowl
not
runs.
taking somebody else's team.
That's very important.
One of the Rams Super Bowl runs. I remember there was video of like a bar where, like in the NFC Championship
the
game,
St.
they-
Louis Rams or the
no,
LA
the
Rams?
LA
Yeah,
Rams, and it was like this small bar, and people were just like the Rams won, like yay, and like they don't care that much yet. I don't think so. That's where I think the NFL would be like, hey, if LA gets there, fantastic. If it could be Chargers or Rams, we don't care.
Just one
Whereas
team.
like actually Giants or Jets. I think that's one where they
Giants.
would. I think they
Giants.
would be
Well,
more than happy with the Jets too. I think
You're
that's one
right,
of those
that-
situations where they'd be like, just get there.
You know why? Because Joe Namath and the Jets,
Yes.
that history. So you're right. That's probably the one split market that's close.
Giants with Eli or Jets with Rogers?
Giants with Eli.
Yeah. But you know what I'm saying? You could put a
That would be
star on
great.
each and then
Yeah.
kind
Okay.
of run with the guy. And
Giants
Giants
with
Jets
Eli?
Super Bowl, the NFL would be just losing it.
What? Okay, so what do you think of more, Giants with Eli or Jets with Namath? I
Giants
guess
with Eli.
generation. Because
generations
generation,
too.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd go with Eli.
Like, I
it's
know
weird
Namath
stuff.
of the
I'm-
Jets.
But that's the
that,
question in
but-
that market where you
I'm-
can put a guy on each.
Yeah, like I'm from the 80s.
Yeah.
Born in the 70s. So I would probably, I knew Joe Namath before
Yeah.
Eli, so that's where I kind
Yeah.
of think of it, but just whatever your generation. But that is the one place where it's probably split, right? Like, where
Not that
it's
you're
pretty even.
No, you wouldn't swap sides for whichever's the flavor of the day. But you're right. Each can take
As the
precedence
fan,
as star
like
power.
the fan base
suggests.
is probably even for both
Yeah.
teams. It's probably just as popular for both. I don't
but
know.
very
I'm not-
rigid. You're not.
that's right. Yeah, You're, it's like
cheering for New York. 'cause
That's
they're
right.
in the
It's
Super
like
Bowl.
a person living in Red Deer is.
Yeah.
You're not cheering for both Oilers and the Flames.
Yeah.
I would say, though, from an NHL perspective, they would rather have Oilers over Flames or Canucks
Why?
because there's better recognition to the Oilers North
But
American.
it's a bigger fan base in Vancouver.
But you're still going to have they don't care about Canada. They don't care in that situation. In the U.S., you'll probably have more interest franchise-wise. I don't even care who's on them.
Oh, sorry, yes, yeah,
Franchise-wise
sorry, yeah,
for the Oilers
you're
than
right.
the
Recognition,
Flames
you're
or the
right.
Canucks. While the Oilers are the
Yep.
smallest of the three markets,
Although Hughes
the
is
US,
changing
more-
that in Vancouver.
Sure.
That
But
could be changing because it's
but
an American-born
the
player.
U.S. people will know the Oilers because of Gretzky or
For
something
sure.
like
And
that,
McDavid
and they're like,
now.
yeah. And so if the NHL had reluctant, we have to have a Canadian team out west go in, they would take
pick,
the
yeah.
Oilers, and I'm even taking a little bit McDavid, Draisaitl, not having them there as much, just as a franchise logo wise.
Yeah.
Oilers would have a better recognition.
Like it's
down
Toronto
south.
first. If you're
Yeah.
the NHL would
Show
want
the
Toronto
Montreal
first.
second.
Yeah.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
I think you would almost go Edmonton second.
Are we talking currently or just franchise recognition wise?
Yeah. Well, obviously,
If it's currently, I would say yes, Oilers, because you got McDavid, Draisaitl.
I guess
It's
it's
franchise
all-
recognition.
it's just-
I think the Habs and
you
Montreal
just want
hold
the
in
most
States.
people watching,
Yeah.
right? And Montreal is Quebec is it's an Eastern market as well, so they probably would go traditional original six.
Original six. Yeah.
Yeah, Leafs, Habs,
Oilers.
and then Oilers right
Then
there.
Vancouver. Because it's people know Vancouver.
Not Winnipeg. How could you not want to promote Winnipeg?
The Whiteout, baby.
Much love to the small markets.
It's funny. I was talking with Craig McTavish on our show. He would be on our show tomorrow about
Game changers.
Game Changers every Wednesday, Silent Ice TV, about the Oilers and Flames dominating that Smythe division for 10 years and the Canucks and the Jets fans just getting pounded. And he said 1990, the Jets had every bit as good a team as them. They just didn't have the belief. And he said that's what we preyed on teams and their insecurities about the Oilers, and reputation probably won them that series. Isn't that crazy? That they just knew they were going to win.
Going to a job interview is it any life type
Yeah.
of thing. You go in with a little confidence and
Going like Spud from Train Spotting. I'm a bit of a perfectionist.
You got
trade spotting. I love it.
You want to go switch spots with YouTube, Trev?
All right.
All right.
Nice.
Well, thanks for hanging out.
Lieutenant Eric,
Good to see you.
Millard, Matt Iwanyk with you here on the EST Hangout, presented by Mott's Clamato Caesar. Actually, can't wait until Trev gets here because where I want to take this conversation next is going to be perfect based of all of that. And that'll actually be perfect to get the movers and shakers, which is brought to you by Marco and Mike Realty, Realty One Group Insider. If you're looking to buy or sell your home, give Marco and Mike the old PTO contract. Let them prove to you why they are the right to for the job. MarcoandMike.com for more info. And I like Trev also coming in with the Mott's Clamato Caesar. You don't have to shake it that hard, I don't think.
No?
I think it just has to be a light shake.
Light
Just
shake.
to
I can do
to
that.
allow all the
Ooh,
sediment to
warm
settle
seat.
in.
I
and
know
stuff.
you guys have a text line. Can I read this text that I
Go
got?
for it.
Of course.
The only way to watch this is on mute. I'm only watching in hopes that Eric punches the Dodgers and Yankee fans on this panel right in their throats. I'll give you...
Jack Cookson.
That's right. Jack Cookson tuning in.
Deal with it, Jack. Deal,
Deal
with
with
it.
it, Jack.
Just because,
Good
now I really
conversation.
hope a Yankees Dodgers World Series. You have to watch that, Jack.
Yeah, Jack.
That'd be amazing.
How's it going, boys?
Good, and you?
Pretty
Excellent.
good.
So
Yeah, that's
speaking
good.
of
Can't
TV
complain.
and stuff, you got Oilers, you got Blackhawks tonight, you got McDavid, you got Bedard. 10 o'clock Eastern.
Awesome, eh? What great...
How do you have the first meeting
Just brutal.
between these two take place at 10 o'clock Eastern time?
Doesn't make any
I think it would be national in the U.S. I actually didn't double check that. I should.
No,
But-
it's isn't there National Night Wednesday?
I think ESPN. Well, that's TNT's basketball Wednesday. Damn it, my ESPN app.
That would be so dumb if this is not a national
Well,
game.
but even if it is,
would be.
I'm sorry, this game should be 8 o'clock. We've seen a couple of Oilers 6 o'clock games
starts,
here, so it should be 8 o'clock. Oilers Blackhawks. It says ESPN on my app, so it's going to be on ESPN.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't I'm sorry,
So-
you have to
so
plan that
crazy.
schedule better if you're the NHL, where you
100%.
go. This is 6 o'clock Mountain, 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern. So this young up-and-coming star against the best player in the world, McDavid v. Bedard, live on ESPN for the country of the U.S. to kind
It's why they scheduled Bedard Crosby on opening night
Yeah,
for
yeah.
ratings. It's a good game, so they should have easily looked at this and did the exact same thing.
Do you know what game's on before at 5:30?
Oh man, this is
God.
going to
Hang
hang
on, no?
Yes, it is.
Oh god.
Red Wings versus Blues.
Yikes.
Wow.
Yeah, no.
They should have
Even,
Patrick Kane, but still.
yeah, nothing crazy there. Even
But
the
they didn't know
matchups-
that beforehand.
Okay, but
No,
You
yeah.
knew McDavid and Bedard were playing
so bad.
beforehand.
here's what you could have done with the schedule if you're TV wise. You move Oilers, Blackhawks up until 5 or 6 o'clock, let's say. You've got Flames, Golden Knights at 8. You've got Panthers, Kraken at 8. You could easily have made that your doubleheader.
Yeah.
Where you do Bedard versus McDavid earlier. For Oiler fans, yeah, it stinks that you have to get to the game an hour earlier for 6 o'clock. But for the NHL television wise, like, how do you not promote this better?
It's bad. It's really bad. We were talking about it, Tommy and Campbell on Hello Hockey. Like even the matchups on the first few Saturday night, just start the season. Just some of the matchups were just brutal. It's like, what are we doing? And then with this, like this should be a statement game. It is a statement game. Like people need to see it. I'd be very curious what the numbers, what the ratings are going to be. But they're missing out on so much. From the people out east. It's no one's going to want to stay up. It's too darn late. So yeah, they dropped the ball. It's pretty embarrassing.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
No.
I also look at this and there's Bedard excitement,
Yeah.
and I don't know how much your ticket's going to cost you tonight, but where was all the excitement? And we talked about this last year, right? You could have went and watched Bedard twice for $30 last year.
Yep.
And
I think he had a tweet on that because somebody was on Twitter, posted their tickets for resale, and Guy had the tweet. I got to see if I can quickly find it here, where how much he said what it would have cost last year to see Bedard.
Yeah.
so it's hindsight or whatever, and you're not thinking about it, but there's 100% no way this game should be starting at 10
No.
o'clock Eastern, and
Not for game one,
it's
not
an
for the first matchup
It's an
between
absolute
these two.
fail. Anytime these guys
That's
play
fair.
each other, should be at the very least
Especially
in
the
some sort of
first game.
prime time. But yeah, you're right. The first game, especially,
It's huge.
that's an absolute fail. But listen,
That's the NHL, isn't
the
it?
NHL
Yeah, that is the
has
NHL.
been tripping over itself for a little while now in some of their decision making. It's baffling to find out the PR advice they're getting.
Yeah. It really is.
Couple of comments in the nasty chat, basically the exact
I
same.
like that.
NHL dropped the ball. Weird. They would never,
It doesn't sound like that.
Yeah, it's when I was seeing 8 tonight, I didn't even think of it for a little. I was like, 8. And then I was just this weekend, I was like, Bedard, McDavid,
So dumb.
that late. Like
Yeah.
it just, and now looking at the schedule of who's playing prior,
Like, are
there
they
was a way
thinking,
to do this differently.
Oh, it's Central. It's only 9 o'clock. Come on. You want your Eastern fan base
Yeah.
watching this game.
This
Like,
is
would they ever put a LeBron? Would the NBA really start a LeBron
yes.
at 10 o'clock
Yes.
Eastern? They would do
Yes.
the same thing.
Yes.
They would not bump it up.
If LeBron took on Steph Curry,
No.
like that's
Like an Eastern. Like who's
an Easter. Oh, well,
like so LeBron, the Lakers, Bucks.
I think they would actually. As long as if it's not, they don't put all their games national. Like that's the thing. If it was a national, if it's not actually, they still might if it's a national broadcast. Weirdly enough, if the NBA.
Really?
I think
You don't think they
I've
would
seen
move
that
it up?
enough as a Laker fan to know that Laker when you play in LA, it's never earlier. It's never earlier.
What about the finals? They always schedule
6
the
o'clock.
finals at 6 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
It's a 6 o'clock start in the
Sixers
finals.
at 7. Tip off 6. I'm pretty sure.
6, so that's
I'm
5
pretty
o'clock LA.
5 o'clock LA, 5 o'clock LA, 6 o'clock
Eastern.
Mountain, 8
8
Eastern.
Eastern,
I
yeah.
believe that's the NBA Finals.
And
schedule.
that's the
and
NHL
that's a
does the same
consistent,
thing.
unless it's a weekend. There's a chance, like if it's a Sunday game,
Yeah,
it
but
might be a little bit
afternoon.
earlier.
But the NHL does the same
Sundays
thing.
it's so yeah. If I recall, last year was 6 o'clock on weekdays. Weekends was 5 o'clock.
And the NHL
So that was
does
a
the
little
same
different.
thing because
Yeah.
when the Oilers were in that final,
Yeah.
everything, well, all their playoff games were. So that's the thing. You're doing it in the playoffs because why? It's an important game. Well, this is the exact same thing.
Yeah.
This is a marquee matchup. Like at the beginning of the season, this should have a giant bullseye on it.
Should be.
Just like Crosby Bedard did.
Crosby Ovechkin when they first started.
Yeah.
like we had
but
big
even this year,
circles then.
you
right?
had Crosby,
Yeah.
Bedard, first game of the year. How do you not realize this one should be earlier?
Here's what I would say for the NBA is you can afford to have the Lakers play later because you're the NBA in the States. You're not
That's right.
you're not trying to win as many Americans over
You're
right
right.
now
That's
because
a really good
you
point.
stand there when you're the NHL and you're trying to still win over the US. You have to be different than the NBA.
This is just so on par for the NHL to put two of the biggest names on at 10 Eastern. Like it's just ridiculously inept thinking by the NHL again.
Yeah, it's not a good look.
Like how can you
Their league's behind.
how can you
They're so
continually
behind.
see this and be like, what is wrong with these people? Like it's just, and this isn't like a hill to die on. This is just yet another, because there's enough hills already to die on with the NHL. This is just another, I can't believe they're this dumb.
If you're the planner of this, you've got to be looking at it now. Like, why do we do this?
Yeah, screw
why,
this one up.
Why are we doing this? Oh gosh, yeah, like it's so bad.
Like I would have a little more acceptance if that game prior wasn't Blues Red Wings and
Yes.
we saw
Maybe.
Pens Caps again to see
yeah,
Ovi
sure.
versus Ovechkin. So the first,
Yeah, and you have a good
duel
lead
next
in,
one,
right?
or you had like some sort of matchup prior that you go, yeah, that's an amazing matchup.
Yeah.
You need that one to have Red Wings versus Blues. With all due
Yeah.
respect, them at the start of the season, no one would have been like, that's
Nobody
the
knew
matchup. to
Patrick
watch.
Kane was going there,
No.
so it's
And so you could easily find a different 8 o'clock game. You can have a game even at 8:30
Hey,
if you
you
wanted.
know what?
You could start the Oilers at 6.
maybe
and
Rogers
you
was
have it.
booked. Maybe the ice time was booked already, and they couldn't get in there
couldn't
at
bump it
6
a little
o'clock.
sooner. They have
couldn't-
things in the
They couldn't
afternoon.
bump the beer league 5 o'clockers. Like you guys got the 6 o'clock or longer. They couldn't beat the 5 o'clock Rogers beer league game, and so hey, they got Connor. We got to play at 8 tonight because the beer leaguers are on. It's just mind blowing how they can continually trip over their own feet.
Yeah.
And, like you honestly wonder how many PR firms they've been through if they're still making this bad
Is
of
this-
decisions.
Yeah, like are they talking about this? Like, is someone bringing this up? I'd be super curious because if I was there, I'd be like, "What are
Yeah,
we
like
doing?
how is there
What
not
are
a
you
meeting
doing?"
being
Yeah, be
like, why is this game? And,
Yeah.
you know,
You know,
it's
the
just-
offices are in New York. They have to be like, hey, I want to watch McDavid Bedard
Yeah.
tonight.
10
Damn,
o'clock.
that's at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, like,
Who
dude,
by
planned
the
this?
time
Who
puck
planned
drops,
this?
it'd be like,
that
what
one's
the
going
hell,
through
dude?
the dial to who put this game on at 10 o'clock? He's just realizing it
It's
now.
like, oh gosh, darn.
And then by the time puck drop happens, 8:10, you know, so 10:10 out there, and it's just
snoozing.
it's
so
Snoozing.
people might
They're
watch the first period.
yeah,
the diehards will watch,
Sure,
but
but you
the
don't ever-
you're not getting the casual fan.
What
as
do we
much.
ever talk
You're not
about
getting
in
the
sports
casual.
talk radio? We know the diehards are there. You need to bring in
Uphill.
the other 80%, right? And that's what the NHL needs is they need the other
They do.
80%. And they need it bad because the other market or the other sports have it. Soccer's getting it.
Yeah.
F1 is getting it.
Well, F1, like, because it's so, well, it's also weekends for F1 that when they do the Vegas race at 1 a.m. Eastern time, people are like, I don't have to work on Sunday.
Yeah.
So
they're
it's
not
just-
doing it on a Tuesday night.
It's just like I don't know. It's mind-boggling that they could continually do this.
yeah.
Especially now that the Oilers are rocking too, right? Like,
Well,
Yeah.
they've really turned this around. And
It's weird.
we had a joke at 1260 always, me and JMO were like, when the Oilers had their bad years, like, they just need a 10-game heater. And we'd always hear about the 10-game heater. They're going to maybe have a 10-game heater here.
Might.
you
Like,
know,
they're playing some incredible hockey
they
right
are, and they're getting led by the best player in the world again at this point. And Gene Principe and Mac T, I talked to them both about this being the closest thing to the 80s as far as the gap between players statistically. So and I'm not saying McDavid is Gretzky or Lemieux, but when Gretzky or Lemieux in the 80s were at their peak, there was them and everybody else. So much so that
Like them and the next best still.
Yeah.
There's a massive gap
so
between
though Gretzky, you could draft his goals or his assists in pools. You couldn't get Gretzky as a player. He was split up in pools. That's how dominant he was.
Damn, I didn't know that.
Yeah, like literally you would draft Gretzky's
crazy.
goals or another other person would have Gretzky's assists. So now you have a Connor McDavid
He's
gap.
stunned by this.
You're
He's
stunned?
trying to figure that
He
out.
had 92 goals one
Yeah,
year,
yeah,
man.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
like
like,
that,
it's
if you
insane.
got Gretzky's goals, you got a
You're pretty
ridiculous,
well, yeah,
and
if
you
you
wanted
have-
his 156.
And if you have all of his points, you're pretty well just.
Well, yeah, you were getting
winning.
200 points. You
Yeah.
were winning, so it was just
makes
unfair.
sense.
It was too unfair. That's how dominant Wayne Gretzky
Well, before
was.
you continue,
insane.
I've heard like some people in some fantasy baseball leagues with Otani, you either take him as a pitcher or batter. There are some leagues that do that.
Yeah, there are. Most leagues
Yeah.
do that. Most fantasy
split 'em up
sites, you
twice.
split them up. But we had one where you got them both, and he became the most valuable player because it was only one roster spot. But McDavid last year with his 164 goals and the point gap, and
Yeah.
now he's given everybody a 5-game cushion, right? I think he's like 5
Yeah.
games behind Kucherov as far as games played, and he's closing that gap
Well-
again. And I'm not sure if he'll catch Kucherov. Kucherov is the one guy that can maybe go off at that level. But I would not be surprised to see Connor McDavid sit number 2. I think he's 12 points behind Kucherov right now.
Kucherov's at 47
He's only
points.
4 points behind number 2, JT Miller.
Miller's at 40.
So he's 4 points
McDavid's
behind
at
number
36.
2. That's what I mean. He's
So,
only 4
11
back
back.
of number 2,
11 back at Kucherov.
Kucherov. So he
5
might
game
not
difference, as
catch
you said.
Kucherov, but I would not be surprised if he's sitting number
Well-
2 at the end of the season, at the very least.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think he's below 2. And that's the thing.
Yeah.
Gretzky would go off. And what does McDavid have in his last 6 games? Like 20 points or something like that?
Yeah.
He had 16 in 5, and then he got 2 more. So this guy, you look, you blink, and he's shooting up this. And that's the way Gretzky and Lemieux were. And we have, even Crosby and McDavid, or Crosby and Ovechkin, never separated themselves that much from
No.
the rest of their peers. That's what McDavid is getting to again, and maybe Draisaitl as the other dude. But maybe it's going to be McDavid Kucherov for like the mini Gretzky Lemieux.
Yeah, it's crazy the jump that he made. He went from like 90th in league scoring in a matter of 8 games. Now he's already
Yeah.
like in top 10.
Yeah.
So
Number
I honestly,
tied for 8th.
yeah,
16 points in a 5-game stretch.
yeah. I wouldn't be. Yeah, man. It's going to be interesting. I would not be surprised. Like you said, like Cooch can definitely light it up. Obviously, he had 128 points like 3 or 4 seasons ago. To win the Art
did.
Ross. But I mean, if McDavid stays at this pace, I don't see it, man. It's going to be close. Like, but Kucherov is like just
It's
insane
funny.
in his own right. So
You look at this team, and the Oilers have like 5 guys at a point per game or better. Nugent Hopkins might be right close.
yeah,
And they're where they are. The LA Kings, I think, have 3 guys that are barely at a point per game.
Mm-hmm.
But what are the Kings getting? Outstanding goaltending
Yeah.
from a former Oiler.
Cameron
Like
Bell.
that has to drive Oiler
gosh,
fans a
it
little.
does.
And Cam Talbot's a great guy, and I had a whole lot of time for him. But it's that style and it's the system, right? Todd McClellan, they're a little bit more defensive. They're helping their goaltender out. Whereas in Edmonton, it's score, or it was.
Yeah.
And, they're still, but they're lacking in the other department, right? So now, if Edmonton can outscore their mistakes, okay. Bouchard, somebody, I think it was you, said he was going to get 20 maybe. He's got 8 already.
Yeah, I think for sure he's going to get.
He's
20.
playing a little bit better. They have their confidence. Like, even I don't remember who we were talking to. I said this team is still can make the playoffs. Like even when they can get there in the regular season. Whether they can play playoff hockey when they get there, I'm not sure. But they're going to be playing playoff hockey for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Well, it's one.
They are.
But it's just this different style of like they're going to try and score their way to the playoffs
Yeah.
and then get to the playoffs and have to try and lock it down. How do you do that?
One thing that's helping the Oilers this year is that the West, outside of the top few teams,
Sure.
it's weaker.
Sure.
And it looks like the projected
Super
playoff
top-heavy.
spot is lower than we've seen.
Yeah,
over
they
the
can
last
get a
years.
wild card
So
spot. They won't
it's a
get the
lot-
division spot, but they'll
if
get
this
a
was
wild
a couple
card
years
spot.
ago, like it would have been a lot tougher to get into the playoffs. 4 point per game players. McDavid's point per game Draisaitl is, Bouchard is, Hyman is. You were right. Nugent Hopkins only 1 point
1
behind
point off,
the point
right?
a game.
Yeah.
But like the thing is, you said McDavid, he gave a 5 game, like didn't play 5 games. He also wasn't healthy for a few games after. Right?
That's
Like,
right, eh?
It's one of those where I would sit there and say, like, it's probably, I would say he gave everyone, if I go when him playing hurt half a game, he probably gave like an 8-9 spot lead to like
I think so.
advantage to other guys that I think he could close that gap on Kucherov, because when he came back, he still wasn't right there until it was probably that Washington game.
It was.
Where we
I
finally
just
looked
look
at
at
him
it,
and went, boom,
I just look at
he's
Tampa's
back.
getting better, healthier. That's going to make Kucherov like Tampa for a lot of the season didn't have their A goalie, so they were probably trailing a little bit more and battling. Now that Tampa's getting a little bit healthier, I'll make a prediction. McDavid will finish number 2 in scoring. I don't think it'd be awesome if he catches Kucherov. I think Kucherov is the one guy that can go off like McDavid. He's not the same player.
I think you said, did he get 120 that one year?
128.
128.
Yeah. So I think he's the one guy that will be able to. I'll make a bet if somebody wants to.
I'll make a bet with you.
What do you want to bet?
Okay, here, wait. My hands are real cold. Sorry.
You could just do a coffee bet if you'd like.
Yeah, I don't know.
How about a super big gulp? I haven't had one of those in a long time.
Super big gulp.
A Diet
from
Coke
Seb.
super big gulp. From Seb.
Yeah. So what's the bet? That Kucherov
You think McDavid will finish ahead of Kucherov?
by like 10
What
points.
doesn't matter what it is.
Don't have to. Don't make
10
this worse.
points.
Don't make this worse.
harder.
They're like, I'll give
McDavid's
McDavid
gonna pop
15
off.
points. I'll give you 15
Yeah, I think
points.
he's
I'll
going
say
to.
Kucherov finishes first overall.
You say
Okay.
McDavid.
You say McDavid. If somebody else finishes,
It's a push.
then it's a push.
It's a push.
Yeah, okay, sounds good.
I like that.
Deal.
Man.
All right.
Yeah,
Movers and Shakers brought to you by Marco and Mike Realty, Realty One Group Insider, MarcoandMike.com. I made a bet yesterday with Hernan off the air. He's a Niners fan. I'm a Ravens fan. So we've got a wine bet going. I kind of just threw it out there to him. And he's like, yeah, let's do it. So if the 49ers win, I'll get him a bottle of Italian red. If the Ravens win, he'll get me a bottle of Chilean red. So that's what we'll go with that. Yeah, I don't know. This Oilers team, it's looking good now.
The schedule is good for them, man,
It
because
is.
you look at this homestand.
Well-
then they go to the East and Christmas.
Yeah, and then they're at West.
And so they don't have to
It's-
go East to West right away. They go East. Guys will probably stay out East, do their thing, and then come back. So I like the December schedule.
Before I continue with the Oilers, this news just coming. Justin Herbert, Chargers, will undergo season-ending surgery in his fractured right index finger. So the Chargers, their quarterback done for the season. They've been done probably for a
So
little bit too.
somebody's scrambling for a quarterback on fantasy football right now, trying to get who's the Chargers' backup. I don't know.
I don't know. I
where's
just took
Hallie?
down the team in my fantasy. Our playoffs, because we were 16 teams, we had playoffs this weekend has started. And I beat a team that had Justin Herbert on it. But I destroyed him, so it didn't matter anyways. I still would have dominated. I put
Your playoffs started already.
we have 16 teams.
Yes, we
So
do
only-
as well, but ours starts this coming week.
So how many teams make it?
6.
Okay, so we have only 4 teams get eliminated. We go 12
okay,
into the playoffs. 4 teams get a bye. Division winners get a bye, and then we play. So now we're into quarters.
So your league is called the Participant Ribbon League.
It's a tough league. 5 keepers.
How is it tough?
5
12
keepers.
teams make the playoffs.
Not that winning it.
You just got to get in, and apparently 12
Then-
teams can.
5 keepers. You're bad. It's the drafts are weak.
You're bad. You still have a good chance of making the playoffs. Like, how many under 500 teams are in the playoffs in your league?
Well, not on my side of the division.
Like 12 teams.
My conference.
Why don't you just let them all in?
I don't know. That's a good question. But you have to go on a run. I don't.
No, you don't.
This week, yeah, you do.
The
I
Oilers-
can't afford a loss.
Why? There's 12 teams in the playoffs. You can afford a few losses.
Not during the playoffs. Now I have an extra week.
in the playoffs.
I have an
Yeah,
extra
of
week of
course, yeah.
playoffs where I can't afford a loss. How many teams?
I bet you there's 5
One-
teams under 500 in your playoffs.
One. Okay, on my side of the bracket, there's only one.
What do you mean?
Well, there's the 2 sides. There's
Yeah, but-
4 divisions. So
Yeah, but how
the
many of those
2
divisions? I bet you there's
Well,
like.
I'm just saying. On my side, every team was above 500 except one.
So
on
the
the
other
other
division's
side,
Yeah.
now does this one? Only 2 teams, I think.
That's impossible.
There's a lot of like almost 500 or just above
Wow.
500 teams. Like I'll
That's
quickly.
parity.
So this includes this weekend in terms of the standings, I think. So 9-4, 9-5, 9-5, 6-8, 7-6, 7-7. Yeah, and they were 7-6 going into the playoffs. 5-8, 5-8, 10-3, 8-6, 7-7, 2-11, 10-3,
You shouldn't make
7-7,
the playoffs
5-9,
5-8.
2-5.
Yeah.
So they didn't.
That's rough.
Oh, I thought you said
One
they
did.
were in.
One did. One made it 5-8.
I hope that
So-
team wins your tournament.
Well, they won this first week.
Oh, I hope
they won
that
this.
team
They put
wins.
up a massive amount of
This is
points. That's
your fault.
Potts.
That's embarrassing.
He had
If a
100
5 and 8
he had 100
team,
he-
that's like 8
yeah.
and 10
Had Trevor
CFL
Lawrence.
teams winning Grey
Yeah.
Cups.
Well, they're not going to win
Embarrassing.
it all because there's some really tough teams in this. And
You don't know that.
I do because they're not going to win this. There's like enough strong teams.
If that team wins it, you got to let me know.
I'll definitely.
I'll let you know. I'll let you know because I'll be stunned. If Potsy goes off and
That'll be
wins this
huge.
all, it'll be unbelievable.
That's like an
So,
8 and 10 team winning the Grey
I
Cup,
have a
which
good
happened.
team, and I might not even like come close to winning this. And I'm very disappointed by that. So I've never won
That'll
this
happen.
league. So I would love for that to happen, Trev.
Yeah.
I would love for that to happen. Do the Oilers keep going to Pickard a little bit here? How should they handle goaltending a little bit? Should they, like, I'm not saying tonight you go to Pickard, but do you go to
Once
a
every 2
situation-
weeks.
You think once every 2 weeks?
Maybe twice. I'd say
So next week he's going to play because they have back-to-back
Yeah.
Islanders. No, Devils, Rangers, I think is the back-to-back. He takes one of those. But is this a situation where, like every 2 weeks then?
I think so.
maybe
'Cause Skinner
maybe a
needs
little
his
bit
rest.
less. A little bit, yeah. So maybe I don't know, every 4 or 5 games.
Yeah. Like, I get you want to keep him playing. And it was interesting. He did have a pretty solid performance the other day. Gager was saying he wouldn't mind seeing him play again or tonight and play a little bit more. And I'm like, I get, you want to keep him playing, but at the same time, he's not your guy. Stu's your guy. You want to keep riding with him while the team's hot, boost his confidence, keep it going.
Yeah,
So
I'm totally agreeing with that, and I think Pickard knows that as well,
Yeah.
right? So the team knows who their guy is. Give him the rest when you need to, and hope that Pickard can still
chime
continue
in
with
when
this.
when he's needed. Yeah.
That's all you need your backup goalie to do is not lose the games.
Yeah.
Like, you might lose the game, but just it can't be your goalie's fault,
Yeah.
your backup goalie's fault.
Well, like I look at the schedule and like if they played Pickard tonight, I'd be a little surprised.
Yeah.
But you got Chicago, Tampa, Florida, then you got 2 days off, then Islanders, then Devils, Rangers back to back. You put Pickard in that first end of the back to back.
Tampa,
played
Florida's
every
not
second.
back to back, is it? Tampa and Florida is not back.
No, there's
so
day
yeah.
off. There's always a day off between games until then. That will actually be the first back-to-back Oilers play this season.
Which is crazy.
And then they don't have another one till February, I think. And then they've got quite a bit the rest of the season.
Yeah.
But for this first part of the season, they haven't had a back-to-back.
That's too bad that they have a whole bunch of them late in the
Yeah.
season.
That's why they kind of that's where the mess up was of their bad start this season was the schedule wasn't hard and they let games slip away and now you're gonna have to make this up later
In a
and
harder
you're
schedule,
playing in a
right?
harder
Yeah.
schedule with more back to backs. But like because I like the idea of playing also the backup. Well, he also beat the Devils, so you can easily put him again against the Devils. But the backup in the first of a back to back, because naturally, if your team's a little more tired the next night, I'd want my starter
Yeah.
to be in net because he's a better chance
Sure.
to bail out the players as they're a little more.
That's a good
Tired?
point. Yeah.
And then the game before, your team should be able to come out and play for your backup. So if Pickard was to play on the 21st, Skinner's only getting 4 straight.
Yeah. The other
And then
thing
he
is-
gets a break, plays, gets Christmas break, and then you're back to, going from there.
The only thing about the backup versus the starter playing is, and I'll speak from experience, I literally had a guy on my team said, man, we have to play so much harder when you're in the net because
Yeah.
I was the backup, right? And
you're
like,
like,
I'm like,
Screw you, man.
That's kind of
what?
a dick comment.
Yeah, you're a dick, but you're right, man. I get it.
I'm sorry I suck,
Yeah, I'm
okay?
sorry I'm not as good as that guy, but you are right. You do have to play harder. And he said, like, we play better. Like, he was
Yeah.
trying to give a compliment in a backhanded way. He's like, I'm like, well,
Like-
yeah, you guys.
We're a better team because of you,
You're-
because you're so bad.
Because you suck, we're better because we have to play harder. And I'm like, somewhere in there is maybe a compliment, but it's also factually correct.
Yeah.
So you do play a little bit harder because you have less confidence in the guy.
Yeah.
Naturally, he's the backup.
Do you, because one of the rumblings out there is that Jack Campbell will actually come up after this homestand.
I think he will.
To me, if you play Jack Campbell, he's got, like, to me, it's game by game almost at that point. One bad game, I'm done with him.
Maybe, but I think you have to do something with Jack Campbell because
But you can't afford losses. If he comes up and you play, let's say he then
course
goes
they
on this
can,
road
yeah.
trip with this team, and you go Islanders, Devils, Rangers, and he goes up against the Devils, and he gives up 4 goals
why wouldn't you go up against the Islanders?
because you're going to play Pickard or Skinner.
Why? Why wouldn't you play him against? Why wouldn't you play the backup goalie against the Islanders?
Because that's not the back-to-back.
Oh, that's not the back-to-back.
No, it's
sorry.
Devils Rangers back-to-back.
Oh, okay, sorry.
It's Devils Rangers back-to-back. So Islanders on the Tuesday, day
you
off,
know what?
then the back-to-back. And
I would still go with my guy in the back-to-backs and then go with Pick because it's a better team. Rangers and Devils are better than the Islanders.
this is where also I wouldn't be bringing up Jack Campbell because Pickard just played well against the Devils.
Yeah,
Well, the team
there's no
played well against Devils, and I would just be like, fine. I'd be more than fine looking at the schedule if I'm Chris Knobloch and go, yeah, Calvin Pickard, 21st against the Devils, lock that in.
Yeah, like Campbell hasn't done anything really to earn his way up back.
You don't think
like,
he's played that good? I don't think he's played that bad. He had a little bit of a shaky start, and then he had a good run. And
The key word is not that bad. Like I would want Jack Campbell to be playing pretty solid.
Stretch where he gave up 4 goals.
Did this hockey reference give us?
Yeah, I guess more so just I don't think he's done enough to. It is just 2 games we've seen Pickard.
But you have
right?
to figure out something money wise, right?
Yeah,
like
that's the
burying
issue.
that money.
It's just so.
So
It's brutal.
what is more important? Getting some help skater wise, or the guy who's going to play once every 10 days?
Oh gosh.
Like I would
So,
rather
like-
have Jack Campbell and be able to go and try and work something out and bring in some more help.
Like trading him away.
Yeah, or and something else, whatever it is, rather than burying that.
But I don't.
But in order to trade him away, you've got to show another team he can actually play in this league still.
But the problem you have with
you
that
can't
is
do that in Bakersfield.
But the problem with that is if you play him and he doesn't win and he keeps costing you games, this team can't afford those losses.
Okay, but
Yeah.
you got to try something.
But that's where I'm okay with him coming up. But I'm like, to me, it's a game by game basis. The moment I have a game
100%.
where, like, if
Sure,
he goes up
okay.
against those Devils and gives him 4,
Yeah.
I don't want to see him with the Oilers ever again.
But you
like
have
it's
to.
done. You can't. This team
You're
can't
not
afford those
showcasing
losses.
him on Bakersfield. No team is
you're
looking
not.
at that saying we want to see. They're saying we want to see him in the NHL.
But at the flip side, at the NHL, I don't think you're going to have him at a situation where you're going to be able to showcase him and team go, oh, we're good with Jack Campbell now.
Yeah, maybe not.
Because if you
I
get
don't
to
know.
that point where all of a sudden Jack Campbell's playing well enough where everyone's
Jack
comfortable with him,
well,
you're going to want him around the Oilers.
If
at
Jack
that point.
well, no, I wouldn't. I want to get rid of that contract and I want to bring in help on the blue line. So if Jack Campbell comes in and plays
go.
2 good games and some team says, okay, like let's say Jack Campbell gives up 2 goals on 65 shots. An NHL team might think, hey, we could do that. I don't know. I'm just saying that's the only way.
But I could also see an NHL team going, it's only 2 NHL
Sure,
games. It's
I
not
guess so.
enough.
But you're not getting Jack Campbell traded by what has happened in Bakersfield. And maybe it blows up on your face, but you need that money.
Yeah, you do need the money. But if you are going to
do.
trade him, like, even if he does put up like unreal numbers in a short amount of time, I still feel like teams will be like, okay, well, look how he was at the beginning of the season. And not only that, you'd have to put in like more. You'd have to give like a first rounder or something to get rid of his contract because a team's going to be like,
Right.
you know, so
Like
it's,
the Oilers
it's a
are
lose-lose situation.
basically the nihilists from the Big Lebowski. They just want the money right now. They just want the money, Lebowski, to be able to get something in here. They don't care, who takes Jack Campbell. They care that they have to attach a first-round pick to it. And the only way Jack Campbell's getting traded is if he actually looks like Jack Campbell used to.
I will say this about Jack Campbell's performance in Bakersfield. I have not watched a second of it.
Sure.
So I can't. I'm only giving
I've watched
numbers.
some highlights.
I can
I've
only
seen
give.
some
I'm going to give the
highlights,
numbers here. So, but there's no, like, I don't know how poor the team has been in front of him or something. I'll start with save percentage because he's played 2, 4, 6, 8 games down there. 800, 846, 808, shutout, 917, 929, 886, 833. Goals allowed, 4 goals, 4 goals, 5 goals, 0, 3 goals, 3 goals, 4 goals, 4 goals. His last 4 starts, or his last 4 starts, he's given up 3 goals or more. 2 of those games he had above 917 save percentage or better, but his last 2 games are sub 900 again back in Bakersfield.
Yeah.
That it's like
At some point, you got to give it a try, though. Like otherwise, you're burying that money and you have nothing. To
I
get
also
from
like
it.
that's where I go back to like I take it game by game basis. I give him 1. If it goes okay, he's gonna stick around until the next start, which is like 2 weeks later. And the moment I get 1 bad one, I got to give up on him. If I'm Ken Holland, like it's I can't risk him.
Yeah, I
because
guess
I don't think there's any way you're gonna like the Oilers are not in a situation where I think they could afford to keep playing him to try to bump up his trade value when they're trying to get
they
the
literally
They
can't
can't.
afford to bury him in the minors because they
lose-lose
can't do
situation.
anything. Like the only way,
But they're winning at least right now.
sure, but how long is that? Like
That's a great
I'm
question.
just saying, the only way they get any relief out of this situation is by bringing Jack Campbell up and playing him and hoping that he can do something. That's it. Because
I don't think him coming up here grows his value that much.
But
I don't think much.
There's nobody trading for him now. There's at least a chance if a goalie gets hurt and he's looking like Jack Campbell comes up and plays 3 games. 2 of them are great. 1 is average. Another goalie gets hurt and he's available. That's the only way you're getting rid of him. And you have to try that because nobody is trading for Jack Campbell at the minors. They're just going to bring up their own minor guy. That's my thought process on it.
Unless
can they afford to gamble on Jack Campbell? Probably not. But they can't afford to not try to get rid of him. And Arizona's actually playing good. You can't just shuffle guys off to Arizona anymore. Yeah. So they're in a rock and a hard place.
If they keep winning hockey games, they can absolutely afford to keep it down there. I would say this season.
Really?
You just can't do much. You can't add to your blue line, or you can't add. You can't add a deadline. It's not.
They can't afford not to add this year.
But it's also a situation where it's going to be so costly. I don't think by playing him, even in playing well in a couple games in NHL, is going to bump up his trade value that much. That you're still packaging a bunch.
You have to hope
no matter what, you're putting in a first round pick and you're adding.
But not if a team suffers an injury. If Campbell is here and he looks okay and there's an injury, I'm serious. There's a window this big for them to get out of this.
If a team's desperate enough, I think
they're still probably going to have to give something, but maybe it's not a first round pick.
But I'll say if he's in the AHL playing all right in the NHL, I think you could maybe have a team that's desperate enough because they're going, we'll take Jack Campbell on even though he hasn't been playing in the NHL, but we're also getting a first round pick.
I bet you it's less than a 5% chance. I'm not saying it's it's like Dumb and Dumber, right? Jim Carrey saying there's a chance, the 1 in a million stuff. It's
Hey, if Jack Campbell could come up and provide 3-4 great starts for the Oilers, awesome. Yeah. I think everyone will be happy with that because the Oilers will be playing better. Yeah. They'll be getting wins or closer to getting those wins, but also maybe there's that chance of trading him.
If he comes up after Christmas,
very risky for the Oilers.
Let's say he comes up after Christmas. How many starts do you think he's actually getting? 6?
Until when?
The rest, I'm just saying, if he came up and was here for the rest of the year.
But are we talking until the deadline or?
Well, whatever. Just
because Skinner needs rest.
He's playing once every 10 days, right?
Well, the thing is,
probably once every 6-7 games.
You have Stuart Skinner that's going to need rest because last year they played him too much down the stretch and he got tired. So you need a backup that could play once every, I would say, 5 games or something. After Christmas,
5 games, and that's about every 10 days, right? They probably play every 2 days.
Week and a half.
Okay,
so probably about 10 days.
Yeah.
So you got Sharks, Kings. Skinner could come back after Christmas, play the first 3.
I think he's only going to play 6 games the rest of the year.
That's the wrong one. December.
That's not good.
There we go.
But it's not that much to ask for.
No, January, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 games. So there's 2 starts there that he's backup. 2 to 3 starts a backup's going to need in January alone. In February, you've got 2 back-to-backs. So right there, you're going to need at least 2. You playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11,
I think
12.
You play your best goal.
I think you're going to need maybe 2 to 3 in February, but let's say 2. That's 5. March, you have 1, 2, 3 back-to-backs. You might need another 3. You're probably looking at 10 more games. April, 10
I don't
to 12
even
more
think
games.
There's that many.
I think 10 to 12 more
games.
Games
because once they get down to it, they're not playing Jack Campbell in a back-to-back. They're playing Stuart Skinner because they got to get in.
But here's the problem then that you have with that is then if we're talking about, okay, they need to go make a trade at the deadline to help this team this year. Now you're hurting your team this playoffs because Skinner's going to be tired because we saw that last year.
Yeah, but you're
playing
get
him
in
too much.
It doesn't matter, Matthew. You got to get in. You don't rest your guy and not get in.
But the Oilers are very much in that race. They don't we're not.
They're not going to be able to afford to rest Skinner.
Every team's going to have to rest players. Every team's going to rest goalies. Right now, the Oilers.
Cam Talbot played 70 games a couple of years ago,
and look what happened in the playoffs. I know, but 3 points. The Oilers are only back of a playoff spot right now.
But this is a team that can't afford to take a night off and lose a game. They're gonna. It's like
they just did it on Sunday.
What would you rather them do? Get in and get blitzed in the first round, or not get in? They just want to get in.
I don't think by sitting Skinner means that you're not getting in.
It depends on your goalie.
Back-to-back straight up, we've just learned that you don't start your goalie in back-to-back.
I disagree.
They're going to be tired in that
totally
next game.
disagree. Why
I love
can't
this.
you?
I love this. This is great.
Why
I'm
can't
taking
you?
this in. Oh yeah.
Because
Like, why
the
are
numbers
goalies-
show that the goalies in the second game do worse than their first game on the back end of a back-to-back. That's what the
It
numbers
depends
show.
on who your backup is, though. If your backup is not good, you're starting your guy and you're running him into the ground to get into the playoffs.
So, but if you're like, so how many games have the Oilers played this year?
Because who
25.
cares if you rest a guy and you finish a point out?
So there's 57 games left for the Oilers, including tonight. You think
All
that
of them.
Stuart Skinner is
All
going
of
to
them.
play like 50 of them?
58 of them. No, I would say Stuart Skinner's playing the 50 of the remaining 57 games if he's healthy.
Holy crap. That's a lot.
It
'Cause
is,
then that puts
but
them at
they're-
9.
Unless
So
they,
what if- but what
unless
if-
they
So
continue
he's going
this
to play.
run.
He's going to play. Funny, 69 games this year. Then
Yep.
at that pace,
That's right.
Nice.
I think that goes against whatever we've seen from hockey, and it
But
goes
it
against what
doesn't-
we happened with
it-
Skinner. And I
it
think the
doesn't go
Oilers,
against getting in the playoffs, and
but
that's
I
all
think-
they care about.
I think the Oilers, with this 7-game win streak, have put themselves in a spot where
Maybe.
they are now in that full mix. We're not talking about them being 10 points back anymore.
Maybe.
They're 3 points back. That's it.
But if
And
you're
this is a
sitting
team
there,
that's going to go win, and when you win, if you win the majority of your hockey games that Skinner's in the net, you can afford to take 10 games off.
But if you're
to have
20
a backup
games-
where if you go 500 in those backup games, you're in a great spot.
I bet you he plays 50 games. If you're 20 games left and you're 8 points out, he's playing every game.
Okay, but now you've played very poorly in January at that point.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. This could be an anomaly, dude. Like, this is not a good defensive team.
But if the Oilers
this
are-
team is going to come back to earth.
If we hit February and the Oilers are 5 points up a wild
Sure.
card spot,
That's different, yeah. But they're not going to be, man.
Time will tell. I don't know, but what if Pickard starts playing, in the starts that they do choose to, have him play at night, and he's putting up pretty good numbers? Don't you think that would?
Well, what's more valuable? A backup goalie every 10 games or another defenseman that plays 20
I
minutes
think
a night?
right now for this team, I
23
could
minutes a
make an
night.
argument that because of where they are,
Probably
if Stuart Skinner's rested for the playoffs, that could be the difference.
They might
Because
not get to the playoffs if you're resting him or bringing in another defenseman.
I think. Well, they're a better hockey team than we saw in this first part of the season. That
Like,
I absolutely. I don't. They're not win 7 straight hockey team the rest of this way. This is a team that could win 3 out of every 4 games.
Yeah, this is also a
And that's
team
a
that
playoff
could
team.
crater
Sure, but if I
defensively.
also
Look at their first half, man. They were awful.
if Stuart
defensively.
Skinner is more rested last year in the playoffs, they have a chance of being the Vegas
Right.
Golden Knights, which means
I'm
they
telling
potentially
you,
go win the
if they
Stanley
rest
Cup.
Skinner, they're golfing in the spring.
And I look at it differently because I think there'll be a playoffs, and I think if they don't rest Skinner, they'll make the playoffs, but they will crash out
if
too
they're
soon.
in this position
3
with
points
20
back.
games to go, you would rest Skinner. 15, 20
Only
games
3
to go.
points back?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, my goodness.
He
You
gets a
have
game every
way
so
more
often.
faith in
On
this team
back-to-backs,
defensively.
look at what they just did against the Devils. And one thing about that game is they kept the
Yeah,
Devils.
blind squirrel finds a nut, man.
They kept the Devils to the outside. And they didn't let them come and have great scoring chance. Maybe
because the Devils were waiting to go play against Vancouver.
But what your team
I
told
love
you
this. This
is
is
that
great.
the team might sit there in those games and go, look, we don't have Stuart Skinner in net tonight. We've got to step up.
Yeah, but this is the NHL, not Tier 4 Brandon Youth Hockey. I'm just telling you.
I love Dusty's little laughing in the other
I
room.
just don't think that they can afford to not play their best players all the time. I honestly don't, and I don't know. Like, maybe you're right. Maybe they get to January and they're in a playoff spot, and then they can take a break. I just don't think they're going to get to that position.
You're going to have losses no matter what.
They're gonna have more
Stuart
injuries.
Skinner's
They're
in
gonna
the
have-
playoffs or in the net or not, there's going to be losses. But that also doesn't mean when a backup goes in, it's a guaranteed loss.
No, I know
and
that.
that's where it's the back-to-backs. I think you're really hurting this team.
I would
And you're
just
really
rather
hurting-
have a 23-minute defenseman every night than a backup goalie once every 10 nights.
Are you going to be able to do that?
And I'm not saying you can even do that.
Well, that's my
Like,
point.
but you got to try.
Well, of course, you're still going to try.
Is Campbell and Broberg enough to get you something? Like, we talking about having to go a first-round pick. He was a first-round pick. And I know that's the easy answer right now. It's like Puljujarvi was going to get them first line right winger or right shot to whatever it was. I'm just saying, is Campbell, Broberg, and something enough to get you if Campbell comes up? because you would obviously rather do that than a first-round pick.
Yeah, like I think if you throw Broberg and a first and maybe another prospect, you can get a decent package. But the second you throw in Campbell, you're going to have to throw in a lot more for a team to
You think you have to go Campbell, a first, and Broberg to get something?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah,
I want to be in your fantasy leagues, man.
No one wants his contract.
Why would you want that if you're another GM?
That's the first thing.
Of course you don't want that, but if you're getting
with his Sharks,
play,
let's
and
say.
with his play, like they're
if
going to
you're
have
getting
to,
like I don't think you're getting a defenseman back for Jack Campbell. Like the moment Jack Campbell's in that's a salary dump trade, and then you're doing another trade to get your defenseman.
Yeah.
I don't know.
If you're the Sharks and you're sitting there, you're Mike Greer going, "You want me to take Campbell?"
Well, yeah.
How are you making this good for me?
It depends on what Broberg is thought of, and I know the opinion is low in Edmonton, but maybe it's not elsewhere. And you're right. You're probably. I'm just trying to get around giving up a first round pick. If it's Broberg, Campbell, and something, and then you move something,
You're
whatever
not doing it
is.
this year. That's the thing. I don't think you can get rid of Campbell in season without the first involved.
yeah.
Postseason, after the
but
season, you can do the buyout.
If you can't get rid of him, then you might as well keep him buried because.
But a team's going to have to be really desperate to want Campbell with his recent play and his contract. Like I feel like the Oilers would have.
Like I said, it's a small window of Campbell playing well and an injury happening.
Yeah,
and it's like the perfect storm, right? You need all of that to happen, and that's why I give it less than a 5% chance. But if you don't try, that's why I think you have to bring Campbell up and at least try him in a couple of games.
I give him one. And it's got to show it there. If it's a bad first game, he's back in the minors, buried for the season.
Matthew's
I'm not giving another
pulling
chance.
him a minute in if he doesn't. If in warm up, get out of here, get out of here. You're not looking good.
Oh, Dan Grummett into the nasty chat. Dan Grummett is going to be on the Hangout on Friday. Broberg in a first doesn't even move Campbell. So that's what he believes. It's going to take a lot to move Jack Campbell's contract.
I think you could probably.
You're not moving to a team that's in the playoffs.
You could salary dump Broberg and Campbell. If you included Broberg, somebody would take Campbell and you're not getting a defenseman back, but that's your salary dump.
I think that other teams sitting there going, you're probably at least retaining salary at that point too.
Maybe, and then you're buying Campbell out, whatever it is. I'm just saying.
I don't know.
As a salary dump, I think you could include Broberg and dump the salary. Then you still have to do something else to get your defenseman. But I think people are writing Broberg off, man, too fast. Just because
he hasn't.
I think you've written off the Oilers making the playoffs a little too fast this year.
No, Matt. This organization has a history of destroying prospects. So you're writing Broberg off.
Prospects.
They don't develop prospects as well. Like that's obvious, man. So I think that you know what? I think that we've seen guys leave this organization and get developed and get turned around. I think Broberg will be in that category.
Oil Stream pregame show tonight, 6:30, because it is an 8 o'clock game. Tom Gazzola, Matt Cassian, they'll get you set for the game. Oil Stream, it's two guys in goalie today with Matt Cassian and Joaquin Gage at noon. Lock Shop coming up in about 10 minutes' time. Before we wrap things up, you've got a busy weekend, Dino, this weekend.
Yeah.
For Vengeance Media and stuff, you've got a lot going on, don't you?
Yeah, I know a lot of people are wondering why it's so mild right now, and we don't, because winter isn't here yet. Winter doesn't start until tomorrow with the Winter Championship for the JPHL. Our slogan is "Winter is coming," the old Game of Thrones thing. So it starts on tomorrow we're at Silent Ice Center. The two arenas there. We are also just south of Edmonton, right by the Amazon building on the east side of the highway. You can't miss it. There's great signage out there. We're also in Morinville at the Morinville Ice Gardens. We're at the Terwilliger Rec Center. We're at Grand Pier. We've got 4 divisions in the JPHL: U14, U15, U17, and U18. We also have a Hockey Super League Challenge Cup. So I think there's almost 100 games. We're broadcasting a lot of them.
Jeez.
So we go Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Sunday is our championship day, gold medal day. We're really excited as Dustin is going to be calling 2 games for us, the U17 and the U18 games. Peter Labardius is calling the first 2 games for us. And the Principe of Puns is coming out. Gene Principe will be hosting the first 2 games for us. So it's great. Gene finally gets to work with a Millard he likes after having to work with Darren for so many years. So I'm excited for Gene for that. But in all seriousness, to be able to work with Dustin again and Peter Labardius and Gene, Tyler Wolk will be our color commentator. We'll have a 9-camera shoot, replays. We have a White Rabbit camera that goes out on the ice. We have a giant video board. It was so neat. Last weekend, we were doing a hockey super league, and it was 12-year-olds. And Macklin Celebrini's younger brother scored a hat trick. And so I was interviewing him, and he was watching the video board and watching the highlights. And just to see the smiles on these kids' faces, they really do, with For Vengeance Media, get the big time treatment. So yeah, we're excited. It's one of our biggest events. If you haven't been to the Silent Ice Center, you need to come check out just how
you guys just had a
phenomenal
big
it
game
is.
a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, we had a Saints Crusaders game. There was over 2,000 people. That was a lot of fun. There are massive amounts of scouts that will be there this week. The BCHL will be there. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's quite interesting. Dustin could be calling a U18 game where Sean Bell and Tyrell Spitzer could be coaching against each other. And I know Spitzy's been in here with you guys.
Yeah, the 2 boys were talking. We had them both on, and they were talking about their little rivalry.
Yeah, so they met in the finals last year. And I know a lot of the other U8 teams are going to have something to say. But the cool thing about this is if you win the winter championship, you get home ice in the playoffs. So you could go on a run in this mid-season tournament. It's kind of a European, I know the NBA. And we're bringing back the minor hockey overtime. So we're going to start 5-on-5 for a minute, and then we're taking a player off. Just a little bit different. We've got some massive charitable components working with kids sport. We'll have a 50-50. Some of the teams have been raising food money for the food bank. So it's just fun. You know, we love Christmas tournaments. I always said growing up, tournaments in October, November, January, February are okay, but that December tournament, because your Christmas break is coming up, you maybe get to travel. There's just something about it. We all love the World Juniors, and so
there's the MAC tournament in Calgary.
Yeah, the MAC midget. Well, the Circle K Classic now it's called.
That's right.
Yeah. So yeah,
but we never had one in Edmonton.
We don't have one.
Yeah.
Now we have one. Yeah, the Winter Championship, December 13th to the 17th. It's going to be so much fun, and all of the games will be on silenticetv.com. We've been doing some fun broadcasts, and so it's great. It's an amazing company to work with. It's like a giant hockey team. Our president of Silent Ice is Steven Gertzen, former NHLer, and everybody has played hockey at some level. So there's a lot of chirping that goes on in our office, a lot of fun, and like I said, that arena is the jewel of the West. It's the nicest arena without a pro team. And I was talking with Mac T yesterday, and he said, you know, the LeCelt brothers, they'd like all the minor youth players to funnel into Spruce Grove and then out to Seattle and then maybe to an NHL team, Mac T's words. And we kind of joked about that before, but they're big on sports. They love hockey. They want a centennial or an Allen Cup rather with the Stony Plain Eagles in 1999. Passionate about hockey, and another beautiful arena for youth hockey players and more to enjoy. So I hope you guys come out and check it out. It should be a lot of fun. Dusty will be on the mic, and Gene and everybody. And what a thrill for these 14-year-old kids to get interviewed by the same guy that talks to McDavid and Draisaitl. I mean, that would be so wild. And you know, Gene is the nicest guy. The hardest part is going to be stopping Gene from signing all the autographs that people are going to ask him and getting them to the bench
Full
for our
security
interviews.
guard.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's to protect Gene from going out because they want to keep going.
Yeah, he would.
Gene, no, you can't go. We need
Gene,
you.
we need an interview.
No, I got another signature to go.
Yeah, it was fun. It was good. I'm loving it. I'm loving youth hockey again and watching a lot. So yeah, we got the Winter Championship coming up and lots more to come from Silent Ice, For Vengeance Media, and our entire group.
Game changers again for the people wanting to tune in because tomorrow
Wednesday, Mac T is on the show tomorrow. Last week we had Gene. It was so much fun. But Mac T, it's funny. I said, what do you get known more for, the tongue or a no helmet? He's like, well, you covered all three. The final face-off in New York. And then he gave a really good story about why Mark Messier allowed him to take that face. I'm not going to spoil it, but Mac T will be on the show tomorrow. Richard Nault, commissioner of the JPHL, and Mike Snee is the executive director of College Hockey Inc. So it comes out every Wednesday on silenticetv.com and all of your podcast formats. We've had Kelly McCrimmon, Patrick Marlowe, Struddy was on there. So we've had
Struddy's the
Sean
best.
Bell was on there. We've had a great list of past episodes. So yeah, I'd be
Sweet.
appreciative if people check it out. Thanks for having me
cool.
in.
Thank you
Yeah.
for coming as always.
Yeah,
It's
this
great.
was awesome.
I love it, man.
Great
This is-
You guys
conversation.
got a
so
nice
much
bet
fun.
going between the two
Yeah,
of
yeah,
you.
I
and-
like
Like
cool.
it.
Yeah,
Sorry
I like it.
that Matthew and I's argument left you out there for
Yeah,
a little
no,
while.
I was good. I was taking it all in.
He was just
I
smiling.
know,
the whole
now I
time.
know
like
why
I
you guys
signed
never
laughing.
book another guest when I'm on here. But Trish is like, you know why they don't book another guest? Because you don't shut up. And I'm like, well, that's probably true.
That was good. I side with both your opinions, so I'm kind of just in the middle. So it worked out. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, oh yeah. So
Stop sitting on the bench, Trev. Make a decision.
You're gonna get
Dino or me?
splinters. You're gonna get splinters sitting on
Dino
that
me
bench.
right now. Pick no. Dino, thanks for stopping by as always. Again, silenticeptv.com for game changers and everything that's happening this weekend. Trev, you're back on the morning show tomorrow yet again.
Yes, I am.
Coming up next here on Edmonton Sports Talk, edmontonsportstalk.com, as well as YouTube channel. It is the Lock Shop with Dusty and Huss. And then at noon, two guys and a goalie, Cass, Gager, Dust will get you set for Oilers and Blackhawks, McDavid versus Bedard, and then 6:30 Oil Stream pregame show with Tommy Gazzola. On behalf of Dean Millard, YouTube Trev, Lieutenant Eric, I'm Matt Iwanyk. Thanks for tuning in to the Hangout. We really appreciate it. I will chat with you tomorrow. Enjoy the Lock Shop coming up next.